This kid awakened admin powers that not even the real administrators had enough strength to defeat. He's the only person who holds moderator permissions, which granted him unique abilities. Our protagonist became capable of upgrading items without any material costs, and plus multiplying his own stats just by using his editing ability. More than that, he can straight up delete any enemy by beating the crap out of them, with a power level no one has ever reached. During his adventure, he annihilated every type of monster, leveled up faster than everyone else, and forged all the legendary items, all focused on avenging his little sister who was killed by a moderator. Let's go back in time a bit to understand how he became so powerful. The story begins with the protagonist and his sister being attacked by a horde of monsters that annihilated everything in their path, and inevitably, they got hit. With no strength left to resist, his sister was killed, leaving him in complete shock. The system administrator was wiping out the entire city as routine maintenance, and since he was just an NPC, he ended up getting deleted too. Aiden, the protagonist, works as a blacksmith, but apparently, he didn't have much talent for it. That's why he always got beat up in the end for breaking the hero's valuable items. His sister, Alice, was all he had, and the only person who brought him happiness. But after living brief, happy moments, his world completely fell apart. Now, Aiden confronts the administrator, swearing that one day he'll destroy the entire system. However, he's thrown into the abyss, being led to believe he'll be erased. In the darkness, he questions his own existence until a system window warns that the deletion was cancelled and that NPC Aiden will be restored. Aiden emerges in the middle of a light and is brought back to the world. Except this time, he has specific powers. Now he possesses moderator authority and gained an update command which leaves him pretty confused. The next day, at Edelin Castle, he's already testing his new ability in front of everyone in the kingdom. Aiden is the only one capable of doing upgrades without needing to spend materials. One of the knights approached Aiden, asking him to improve the quality of his swords. Aiden is shocked when he sees his face. It's the same man who used to beat him up when he was a blacksmith before being reborn. Faced with this, Aiden decides to get revenge. He grabs his forge hammer and strikes it hard to make the upgrade fail and cause all the swords to break on purpose. The bully is left speechless with what happened since the swords weren't even his. Everyone got furious and kicked them out to avoid fights at the place, and everything went back to normal. After spending hours doing upgrades, Aiden made quite a profit as a blacksmith. While resting, an alert window popped up showing that a new quest was completed and that a new command had been unlocked. Aiden is still confused about receiving moderator commands, but deep down, he doesn't care about the reason. The moderators took his sister, and now he wants revenge on them. Determined, he presses the quest button, raising his moderator level and unlocking a command to unlock any item. However, he decides to choose the item at another time. Another window appears before him, showing a new quest to find an Easter egg. The system indicates the path to follow, with a yellow light marking the objective's location. The next day, he was in front of the mission gate. But he wasn't alone. Someone was following him the entire way. He decides to enter the dungeon, and soon a warning message appears that the place is restricted to level 80 and above. But since he's a moderator, his entry was granted. Inside the dungeon, he found various types of monsters and managed to get past them normally. At one point, he came across a gate that couldn't be opened without the key, but since he has the moderator role, he unlocks the passage with his ability and enters the Great Hall. Finally, he spotted the quest's light, but the moment he was about to complete it, the dungeon boss suddenly appears, slashing his arm. Aiden, already wounded, draws his sword and prepares for the boss's next attack. The instant the boss attacks him, he takes advantage and drives the blade into his neck, ripping his head off. The boss, even completely headless, still delivers a devastating punch, throwing Aiden against the wall that shatters. The boss puts his head back in place while Aiden is there, fallen and defeated. But the memory of his sister appears in his mind, and he decided not to give up. He pulls out his forge hammer, and the moment the boss attacks him, Aiden strikes the sword with his hammer, breaking it into pieces by making the upgrade fail. With that, he found an opening to win this battle and rips off the boss's entire arm. The boss was defenseless on the ground. Aiden, with his forge hammer, completely shatters the boss, managing to complete his quest. With that, he managed to level up his upgrade power to level 3 and also acquired a new edit command. Badly wounded, he exits the dungeon and falls to the ground, completely passing out. The person who was following him was a girl. An unknown drone appears inside the dungeon, checking if the boss was defeated. When it concludes its verification, it returned to its base to report to its system. A few minutes later, Aiden finally wakes up next to his stalker. He gets startled and asks who she is. She introduces herself as Arya. Aiden, with his moderator power, notices that she's a dangerous person and decides to leave, leaving her behind. But Arya doesn't give up and keeps chasing him, sending multiple friend requests. Aiden tells her to go her own way, but at that moment she points behind him and there's a wolf attacking him, trying to catch him off guard. Aiden pulls his sword, already slicing through its body, but there were several wolves surrounding him. Meanwhile, the flying orb arrived in a guy's hand and shows the information that the boss was defeated. The man stands up, saying it was impossible for it to be defeated. This man was a moderator and decided to go check this situation. Our protagonist continues in the midst of that fierce battle. For the moderator, everything that happened must have been the result of a failure. Finally, all the creatures were defeated. Aiden holds the sword with the little strength he has left. Using his weapon to support himself on the ground, he realized he had achieved his victory, but he can hardly believe that he, an NPC, was able to defeat all those monsters, receiving as a reward from the system the command to edit. An incredible ability. He never thought something like that could be possible. And his rewards don't stop there. He also received a status multiplier. All his attributes are now multiplied by 2, but using this ability has an intense collateral and he needs to be cautious when using this blessing. Now he can do many things through editing, but Aiden is thinking of ways to put this into practice. Noticing that there was something strange in his status. Even after all that, he was unable to level up and did not receive any experience points. To get stronger, the basic path is to gain levels, and she would like to know the reason behind all those actions. Standing up, she said she doesn't know why Aiden does all this, but if he wishes to grow quickly, there is a way to do it fast, which is by teaming up with her, claiming that hunting alone is not very efficient. Aiden understood that it made a lot of sense, and perhaps through this hypothesis, he could achieve his goals. Surprising Arya completely, he agreed to the proposal. The girl, who did not expect this reaction, asked him to repeat his words, but our protagonist is determined, saying he would do with her what was proposed, a team. Quite excited to hear these words, Arya hugged our protagonist, for he had finally agreed to her invitation. She reinforced that they should be friends, but for our protagonist, they were going too far. The next day, they went to the Hekla Canyon. The recommended level for that region is 50. Arya said that what they are doing is usually called being carried. All he needs to do is stand still, for if he strays from her, he could lose his life. She made it clear that this kind of gesture is done only for close friends, yet he still refuses her friendship request, claiming that Aiden is a lucky person, for there are those who pay for this kind of service. And our boy realized that by her attitude, it wouldn't be problematic. Even so, he decided he would do the best he could, using his editing ability. If he can gain experience this way, he will be able to receive double, and this can be done in 2 ways. The first is by receiving tasks within the city, and the second is by hunting demonic creatures. Since he had defeated all those monsters, the obvious conclusion for the boy is that something must be wrong. He decided he would try another method, all this while being closely watched by Arya. That's how he began to hunt creatures daily. As he was an NPC, it was impossible for him to receive tasks meant for players. Continuing to hunt was his only option. No matter how many monsters he had defeated, or how many commands he had used as an administrator, he still wasn't able to level up. After all that effort, he got nowhere. That was the limitation of an NPC. These characters are incapable of growth. In contrast, players selected by the system can grow infinitely. At night, near the warmth of a campfire, he realized he had not been selected, and that's why Aiden cannot grow in any way. Sighing deeply, he is hopeless, thinking that he won't be able to level up, until the girl who accompanied him said there might be a way and wanted to know when he would finally accept her friendship request. But our protagonist continues to feel bothered by her, who has followed him all this time. The girl noticed that he is striving to become stronger. While watching Arya move towards the monsters, he hopes this strategy will work. The girl advances towards her enemies, quickly passing through them and leaving a trail of destruction behind. Aiden was impressed with the amount of levels he began to receive, along with all that experience, realizing that his strategy had worked, and now he managed to gain his levels. Completely enthusiastic, he realized he should have started doing this much earlier. Aiden, however, did not notice that he was being watched. That little drone records everything that happens attentively, identifying Aiden as the error they were looking for. Watching everything the girl does, Aiden already suspected she was abnormally strong, but perhaps she is even stronger than he was expecting. What doesn't make sense to our protagonist is why he is being followed by someone like her. Looking at Aiden, the girl realized he was not alone, immediately identifying the drone that was observing all that action. And Arya seems to know what that means. Our protagonist's mission has finally been completed, and he received a skill point. He can't believe it took him so many days to do something so simple. He also realized that skill point can be used in editing, unlocking new possibilities. Distracted, he didn't notice that Arya was no longer in his line of sight. He started shouting in that place, asking where she could have gone. As it was said, she would carry him. Behind one of the boulders, the poor drone met its end. Its circuits were destroyed and it warns its attacker that it is registered in the system as property. Destroying it could lead to repercussions. But the girl ignores all that and finishes crushing it with her foot, stating that the drone is too noisy. She doesn't know who it belongs to, but she won't let anyone interfere with her experience, since no one will touch what belongs to her. No matter who it is. Meanwhile, Aiden continues trying to understand more about himself. After everything they went through together, Aiden finally accepted the friend request that Arya proposed. As soon as that happened, the girl couldn't hide the happiness she was feeling. In light of her excitement, Aiden asked her to be a little less flamboyant, making it clear that it hadn't been anything. However, thanks to her help, he reached level 30. And now the two are traveling together across the continent, a player he met by coincidence, and Aiden can't say what she found so interesting in him. Despite everything, he has to acknowledge that she has been a great help, which is why he accepted her friend request. Not to mention he had nothing to lose from it, and the skill point he received ended up being put into editing skill. Now he finally achieved something he had been wishing for. Now Aiden will be able to change classes. This way he could stop being a mere NPC, as the system will start to see him as if he were a player, allowing him to gain levels on his own. Even though this is possible, the path to be taken will be very long. However, Aiden has already managed to become stronger, and he realized that this strength could have made a difference. On the day he lost his sister, lost in his thoughts, he noticed that the characteristic signal of the system appeared in the form of those golden petals that were passing by him in that place. Arya immediately noticed that our boy started to move. She doesn't know where he is going, and Aiden began to run across the lawn, reaching a large plain. Before his eyes was something peculiar, as if it were a portal to another dimension. That scene left him scared, as the boy couldn't say what it could be. Arya told him that it is a bad sector, but our protagonist doesn't know what that means, and she said it is a place abandoned by the system. When a region deleted by the administrator is neglected, it becomes something similar to this. It is a completely unpredictable place. No one knows what could come out of it. Even receiving this warning from Arya, our protagonist decided to approach. Knowing that this is his intention, the girl followed him. Now the two were in front of that enormous barrier that reaches the sky. Aiden is thinking about the nature of that bad sector, and thought that the city he used to live in might have become something similar. Arya seems very excited about the idea that they will explore this place from the inside, as it seems potentially fun. But as soon as Aiden touches the barrier, it changes color. Probably his administrator privilege destroyed that barrier. As he passes through the space he created, Arya follows right after, quite enthusiastic, leaning on the boy's back. Upon making contact with him, a reaction began to happen, and Aiden asked what she was doing, saying that she could have entered there alone and didn't need to cling to him. But the girl knows that only moderators and administrators can enter bad sectors. Aiden is not liking that excess contact, and the girl finally managed to confirm her suspicion. She knows that somehow Aiden is special. After they passed through the barrier, they walked through a completely devastated place. Aiden is thinking that he finally entered that place, but he doesn't quite know what motivated him to do so, concluding that he didn't need to be there. Even so, he decided to follow those signals. While they were walking inside, a shadow passed close to them. Aiden is fully aware of what is happening. Putting his hand on the hilt of his sword, he realized that something could happen. Observing that a creature from afar, he thought that it definitely is not a wild animal, and he was prepared to end the life of that demonic creature. But as he got closer, he realized it was a child. Not expecting something like this, he was immediately surprised. This ended up causing a gap in his defense, and now an arrow is heading in his direction. Fortunately, Aiden managed to block that attack, revealing another person there as well. The man holding a crossbow asked Henry to come back to him. Immediately, the child protected himself behind that man, still pointing his weapon at our protagonist. He assumed he was a player. He hadn't seen other people for a while, so he asked how they were able to enter. Aiden remained silent, as if he were analyzing something. On the other hand, that man found him very suspicious, even though he wasn't behaving in a hostile manner, until he decided to turn his attention to the blue-haired girl. Arya was definitely not going to allow anything to happen. She was emanating an astonishing power, which left that man deeply concerned. Having briefly contemplated that, he was left breathless and sweating cold, making Henry, who is the child, equally anxious. The boy's name is Jake, and he felt a very sinister energy coming from Arya. He had never seen a player with that kind of power. If she became their enemy, that could definitely be a big problem. Aware of the imminent deadlock, Jake was surprised by the arrival of another of his companions. The man was in a hurry, running towards them, claiming that there was a problem happening. But upon seeing our protagonist, the man was even more surprised, as he did not expect to encounter a player there in that place. Jake interrupted the man and asked what problem he had come to report, knowing immediately that Ellen's condition had worsened, which left Jake speechless. They returned to the place where she was sheltered. Jake entered the house quite breathless. Inside, a woman was providing palliative care, and the man asked what was happening as it was too early for Ellen's illness to progress, but the nurse couldn't say what was going on. Desperate, he tried to wake Ellen up, while our protagonist watched closely until his eyes focused on that situation. He realized that the child had a very exotic disease. It was as if she were disappearing too. Suddenly, a warning message from the system appeared to him. Aiden became deeply worried about this. The system was saying that an error had been detected and that the danger level was low. The emergency solution for this was to delete that error. Jake asked the nurse to try something, pleading with her to do something with the child. But the nurse apologized as there was nothing that could be done in this situation. At that moment, the child rushed into the room, calling out Ellen's name. Jake did not allow him to touch the patient, saying that he was not authorized to be there, but Henry was upset, telling him to let go of her. Henry wanted to wake the girl up, but Jake said he couldn't touch her. Arya entered the room without them noticing and said that this would be very difficult, claiming that it was already too late. Worried, Jake wanted to know what she meant by those words, begging her to help them too, believing that players might have a solution to this problem. It was then that Arya told them that this is not an illness, this is an error. Jake didn't believe it. He also didn't understand what it meant to be an error, stating that it was impossible. Even if their city is in this condition, they never disobeyed the system, so that doesn't make sense. Arya said that disobedience to the system is not the only way to become an error. There are countless ways for that to happen, and there is nothing to be done about it. The child will worsen his condition until he becomes a danger to others. If they don't want to be deleted along with her, Arya recommends that they stay away, which left Jake desperate. Now that his hopes were shattered, he was having difficulty believing this. Outside, our protagonist was equally outraged. He does not want to accept that the child's situation is this. That is a great injustice. The system assigned him an emergency task, in which he needs to delete the error. Aiden did not agree with the idea of deleting a child, causing the system screen to shine before him once again, for the system wants to know if Aiden will delete the child with the privileges of an administrator. Faced with this absurd choice, our protagonist was deeply offended. For him, it is a personal insult to even consider accepting something like this, so he decided against it, causing an immediate reaction in the system. Being informed that he could be confronted with a future punishment, once again the system asked him if he was really giving up on that mission. This brief dialogue made him increasingly outraged, as he was brought there by the system itself. Aiden does not believe that his true purpose was to be there just to delete that child. Even with all these privileges, Aiden believes he will never become like the true administrator. Hitting the system screen with a punch, he said he would never do everything the system wants. Even if everything he is doing is a mistake, Aiden is determined to completely eliminate things as they are. Finally, after all that discussion, he also entered the room, informing everyone to step back, because now he would take a look at the child. One of the men asked if he had a solution, and Aiden shared that he had nothing specific, but still needed to try. At that moment, Henry pulled him by the cloak, as he was pleading. He wanted his younger sister to be saved. Aiden knows exactly what that child is feeling right now, which is why he is determined. Once close to her, he prepared to examine her with his hand. Then, he placed his hand on the girl's forehead. Apparently, Aiden can use two of his abilities, and a great glow began to form, leaving everyone in that room surprised, as they do not know what it is about. All this while Arya also closely observes the actions of our protagonist, who is clearly trying hard to restore that child's health. Through this, it was as if he were immersed in a dimension of data. Aiden is surprised by what his eyes are seeing. It seems that place has no end. He thought it could be the system itself. He then remembered that he told all those people he would try to do something. He needs to think, as there must be a way to save that life. At first, it is a mistake, and this happens when the NPC goes against the rules of the system. Aiden began to materialize his sword in that data dimension and cut something with it. His intention is to completely separate that girl from the system to then restore her. Bringing his hand over the girl's face, he believed his hypothesis might be correct, causing his ability to come into action. The girl's body began to shine more and more. After that, he began to sigh in relief, still observing the girl's body very attentively. Soon after that, he could see the system contacting the data of the people in that room. All of them were also gathered there, and it seemed something was happening. To them, Aiden realized he needed to act quickly, as this could become an even bigger problem. Outside, all the people anxiously awaited the results of Aiden's actions. Arya was truly impressed with what was happening, as it might really be possible for something to happen. The glow emanating from the girl's body was becoming more intense, blinding the eyes of everyone present, until the luminous energy caused by Aiden's actions was able to overcome the barriers of that house, spreading completely within that dimension. Until, outside, the barrier separating that failure region was completely destroyed. This was the result of Aiden's actions, who was now quite breathless. Realizing that things around him had transformed, he could not tell if everything had worked out until he was informed by a system screen about something unusual. He had completed the secret mission, and thanks to that, he also received a new command. Aiden could delete data, being registered as the new administrator of that region. Finally, Aiden realized that the system did not want him to delete the child, but rather to resolve the error. The boy needed to catch his breath and organize his thoughts. Realizing he had been tested by the system, somehow the system wanted to make sure of the path Aiden would decide to take. Without expecting it, Arya began to pour a potion on our boy's body. He immediately felt uncomfortable with that, saying he was already feeling better, but the girl seemed very worried about his health and wanted to check personally, revealing that she was fearful something bad might have happened to him. Her greatest wish is for him to continue being cautious, as it is important to her. At that moment, the inhabitants of that place called for Aiden. They were all very grateful for what had happened. Thanks to his intervention, everyone, including the children, were now safe, and they did not know how they could repay that huge favor. After that, a system screen appeared. The update was completed. Those NPCs are now reborn. Immediately, our protagonist began to see the level and occupation of each of those NPCs, knowing that their village had also emerged and its population is 5 people, with Aiden being the true administrator. At first, those messages didn't seem to make any sense to him. It was when he realized he might be involved with what just happened. In that data dimension, he was able to see the bodies of all who had been separated from the system. But that wasn't all that had happened. Something tried to intervene in his actions. Aiden knew he needed to act quickly. In that place, he certainly wasn't alone. Just by observing that luminous formation with his eyes, he could perceive this was the true source of the whole problem. He used his data sword to fight against this unexpected enemy. What seemed to be a virus was actually the error behind all that occurrence. Thanks to Aiden's strikes, the error was completely exterminated. Now he needs to resolve the situation of the other NPCs. Immediately, something similar to a path made of circuits emerged from within them towards our boy. Aiden still couldn't say why that connection happened, but now he is sure of one thing. Everyone is free from the system and has been reborn. Still very thoughtful, he was surprised by the young man who first approached him because he had a question to ask. He wanted to know if our protagonist is actually a moderator. Aiden didn't expect that, but for the NPC, he used the system to save them. This kind of miracle only makes sense if he is a moderator or one of the players selected to be an administrator. No matter what the explanation is, everyone is in debt to him now, and because of what happened, they want to follow him. Trying to explain himself, Aiden said he is not a moderator, and that they don't know him well enough to do something like that. But for them, it's the only way, since Aiden had become the master of that place. With his new followers, our protagonist doesn't know what to do, and thought he should act as if he were a moderator. At that moment, Arya held him by the shoulder, saying he should have something in mind from then on. He is responsible for changing the fate of those people. No matter what his decision is, they will all accept it. That's why he shouldn't think too much about the matter, but rather act naturally, doing what he wishes, letting everything happen at its own pace. Aiden found that advice strange, as if somehow Arya knew more than she appeared to. Definitely, this woman is very confusing to him. Even so, her opinion seems to be correct, and Aiden said he would do as those people wish. He would start by giving them what they need most right now. In a few seconds, a large meal had been presented to everyone, leaving all those NPCs quite excited. They no longer remember the last time they ate so well. Then, the man with a streak in his hair thanked him for the food, as he was starting to get worried about the children since they were running out of supplies. Now they should be able to sustain themselves for a few days with ease. Aiden asked how long the place had been desolate, and the man said the village used to be a good place to live. It wasn't very important, but it was very beautiful, and several players frequented the town until the day the giants arrived and deleted them during maintenance. They were the only ones able to survive, as they received help from a mysterious wanderer. It was he who rescued them through an inexplicable power. Shortly after that, he disappeared. Since then, they have persevered together, trapped in that place, and because of that, they became a family, helping each other. Immediately, Aiden remembered the sister he had lost. While he was immersed in his thoughts, Arya watched him with great interest, until she noticed there was something else inside that place. A large chest that was sealed. The player's mind began to contemplate the possibilities. Then, she asked everyone what could be inside that chest, as it seems to be in much better condition than the rest of the village. One of the NPCs said that it is a special storage that only players can use. As it is connected to the system, Aiden was surprised by this explanation, and the man continued saying that it was a storage for work. But after the place was abandoned, it became completely sealed. Probably this was done by the system itself, and finishing listening to the explanation, Aiden was astonished, asking them to step back. Since he was going to try to open the chest, Aiden had heard that players collect various rare items, and now it might be his turn. Putting his unlocking skill into practice, using the administrator skill, it might be possible. And unsurprisingly, that's exactly what happened. Inside that chest was a large quantity of items. It was then that Aiden realized he could use that in any way he wanted. The other NPCs were also surprised by what was happening. They couldn't understand. All of this while Arya watched with great satisfaction. Aiden is getting closer to achieving his goals. Now our protagonist resumed wielding his hammer. He strikes his tool with great dedication until he finally managed to improve the quality of that equipment. Looking at the sword he had forged, he began to wonder if it was all right. All those NPCs are armed with incredible gear. They don't think they deserve it. Not to mention they have far more items than they need right now. Our protagonist said they shouldn't worry about anything as he has plenty of materials, so they should accept those gifts. After all, regret might come to them in the future. The probability of success is what our protagonist desires. He can ignore the system's rules. Now, he managed to provide those people with plenty of food, money, and equipment. The resource level of the village is above ideal. After doing all this, Aiden realized he was being watched. Arya, until now, is waiting to benefit in some way too. Aiden said that the player already has excellent items. She was certainly disappointed, but our protagonist received many items from that chest, and now he doesn't have to worry about food or money for a long time. Not to mention that the new equipment is extremely powerful. All of that belonged to the players, but he doesn't care. Since storage is part of the system, it's certain that the players will be rewarded for this mistake. In the palm of Aiden's hands was the most precious item of that experience. It seemed to be a portal leading to another dimension. This is a passive cloud storage ability. After opening that storage and carefully analyzing the items, he noticed that many of them were common items, so he decided to inspect the chest to see if there was anything more. As he put his hand inside that container, he noticed something. It was as if his body was being pulled inside. Aiden still doesn't know what's happening, so he became worried. He was being synchronized with that part of the system. His hand got stuck inside the chest while the synchronization happened, until finally that small portal appeared in the palm of his hands, symbolizing the completion of the sync. But Aiden still doesn't know this and continues to struggle to pull his arm out of the chest. When he was finally freed, he fell backward onto the ground. Finally, Arya realized what had happened, and now the chest was truly empty. Looking at his own hand, Aiden noticed there were some glowing circuits on it. He never imagined this was possible, but now he can use the special storage from anywhere. Aiden is sure this will soon become very useful. And once again, all the villagers of that new village thank him for everything that happened. Definitely, surviving won't be difficult from now on. Now they asked the new administrator for a job, as they would do anything he asked. To their surprise, Aiden said they could do whatever they wanted with their lives, and that it wasn't up to him to give that kind of order, also announcing that he was leaving. Worried, the NPCs wanted to know if he didn't like the place, but Aiden made it clear that he has more important things in his way. While the villagers are saddened by this, Aiden thinks he needs to get away from there as soon as possible, because in a few days maintenance will happen, and with it, the giants will emerge. If he stays there, he could cause problems for others, so it will be safer for all of them to stay away from our protagonist. Aiden said they shouldn't be sad, as he didn't announce that he was abandoning them, making it clear that he also doesn't have a place to go. Therefore, he would certainly return to visit them, hoping they could persevere until then. Watching Aiden move away on the horizon, they are all eager for his return. On the way, Arya asked why the rush, as she imagined they would stay in the village for a while longer. She suspects there must be some reason for this, but our protagonist is irritated by this excess of questions and will make up any excuse for her. He revealed that a scheduled maintenance will happen in a few days, and he wants to level up before that happens, asking if it wouldn't be normal for a player to do something like that. But that left Arya thoughtful, as she knows he is not a player, and when confronted with this truth, Aiden was quite surprised. Arya, hand on her chin, confidently, did not expect such an intense reaction. She was truly surprised, seeing that the boy thought he had managed to fool her. That's why she has been following him around. Arya wouldn't do this with a normal player, since she had been discovered. Aiden asked since when she knew the truth. Immediately, the girl began to think she was present on the day his village was erased. At that moment, her eyes saw Aiden trying to escape. Our boy realized that she has known the truth. From the beginning, however, Arya assured him that she would help him as much as possible, so he wouldn't be deleted by the moderators or administrators. No matter what happens, she won't let them delete our protagonist at that moment. Her eyes and Aiden's met deeply. Their conversation was interrupted by the appearance of several warning messages. A system screen was before the boy's eyes. Aiden was informed about the maintenance that would happen soon, and a countdown window was also opened. That is definitely ahead of schedule. It's just a matter of seconds. This maintenance is temporary. As the seconds decrease, Aiden becomes increasingly agitated. Arya found it strange that he was so tense for no apparent reason, and Aiden said that the maintenance would start soon. The player was surprised because she didn't know it would happen so quickly. Arya tries to calm our boy, but Aiden says there's no time left. In a second, everything will happen immediately. The sky of that place turned dark, and a black moon took the sun's place. The temporary maintenance was underway. Seeing that the color of the sky had changed, Aiden shuddered. The event he wanted to prepare for began without warning. Immediately, Aiden's body began to transform into Data. After being enveloped in that energy, he started to levitate. Desperate, he asked Arya what that light was and how he could escape this prison. As his body rose, his despair grew. However, Arya told him not to worry. All the boy needs to do is wait. Not understanding what that meant, Aiden became even more nervous as his body was disappearing until he finally became solely light. Shortly after that, he fell to the ground as he had been transported. After getting up, he began to observe that place. There were several people in what seemed to be a huge empty field, and contrary to what he imagined, the people were chatting casually, as they were all players. Then, a system screen appeared once again. Aiden was being welcomed to the general chat. The players stay there while the maintenance happens. Finally, the NPC's question about where the players go during maintenance was answered. He had never seen so many players gathered in one place. He thought he could get some information from them. Arya said that our protagonist should wait, but she doesn't know if she will go to the same place as him. Determined, he approached the players to gather more useful information. Seeing the quality of those items, he was impressed, as he thought he had become powerful. But compared to the elite players, he remains mediocre. Some powerful high-level players wear extravagant clothes, and they seem to be unhappy with the weight. Continuing his walk, Aiden realized he still had a long way to go. Not knowing how long that would last, Aiden realized he needed to meet up with his companion. It was then that he heard from a player that it would soon be over. Another person in that conversation asked what would happen at the end of the maintenance. It seems he doesn't know about the warning. A new maintenance will start in sequence. This only makes the players even more upset. As these maintenances happen without any updates, Aiden doesn't want to mingle with these weird people, but he ended up bumping into someone. He looked back worried, and the worst happened. That player didn't seem friendly. Holding him by the collar of his shirt, he told him to watch where he's going, or he might end up getting beaten up. Aiden doesn't want to draw attention this time, or his situation could worsen. He decided that if he were hit, surely the conflict would end. But someone prevented that from happening. A third player told the jerk not to do that just because of a shove, as that is a sign that there's something wrong with his personality. Thus, the conflict focused on those two players. The jerk tries to keep asserting himself, but his eyes found something interesting. On the armor of that third player, there was an emblem engraved. Everyone in that place knows that this is the symbol of the Griffin Guild, one of the 5 largest in that server, being the most famous among all. Immediately, the players expect that conflict to be resolved violently. But the jerk decided to abort violence as an option, as he recognized he would be brutally beaten. The friendly player and our protagonist just watched the jerk walk away while he muttered curses. Finally, Aiden thanked the help he received, and the friendly player recommended that he be careful with problematic people. Extending his hand to him, he decided to introduce himself. That player's name is Kevin, and as soon as he learned Aiden's name, he began to smile, thinking he might be a newbie. He also said that newcomers tend to be easy targets for jerks like that one, who, if not interrupted, would have continued being inconvenient. Kevin believes their meeting was preordained, suggesting they form a team when the maintenance is over. Aiden was surprised, as he doesn't think he could be useful in any way, but Kevin said he isn't looking for anything special. However, since the updates stopped happening, there are hardly any new players. This has led guilds and veteran players to covet these newcomers. Kevin does this too and invites new people to join his team, making it clear that he isn't forcing Aiden into anything, but he should consider the invitation. As they had already talked, Kevin said he would go his way, suggesting Aiden message him if he had questions, making it very clear that new recruits are always welcome. Aiden watches that boy without any reaction. His impression of players is that most of them were bad people, but it seems that this is not a universal truth. Thinking about this, he was suddenly surprised by Arya. She tried to scare him a little and managed to find him among those people. Aiden wants to know how long she has been watching him, but the girl said that information is confidential. She also brought a gift for him, showing another player. This was the person who tried to bother our protagonist, and judging by his appearance, he was severely corrected. Aiden said that if she causes trouble like that, her karma will turn negative, but Arya seems unconcerned. Now that they are together, she wants to know how that experience was for Aiden. There isn't much to learn in this region, but the boy observed a lot, making it clear that it wasn't something so unpleasant, without them knowing. The moderator watches them from above, and his eyes are locked on this player who is actually an NPC. In a place within that server, the girl complains that only the three of them are gathered. She said that Lloyd is an idiot for doing that without consulting everyone. Since he was responsible for starting the maintenance, he should be present. This girl is named Mia. She is a moderator. It was then that someone held her by the shoulder, advising her not to get upset, because Lloyd wouldn't do something like that without a good reason. This woman is named Selena and is also a moderator. It was when the third of them said he just received a message. Apparently, Lloyd found an error. This man is named Zenon and is also a moderator. They believe the error must have already been solved, yet they want to finish that meeting quickly. Now, they watch Lloyd through a virtual screen as they are curious to know what happened. Finally, the system notifies everyone that the temporary maintenance has been completed. The players noticed that it was much faster than usual, and still, there is no information about future events. The fact that the maintenance only resolves errors leaves them very frustrated. On the other hand, Arya noticed that the maintenance ended prematurely, which is not common. Amid all those players, she began to feel uneasy about it. Without expecting it, her whole body started to glow, and the girl realized she was being affected by the system. The same happened to the bodies of all the other players. Someone is using their special authority. Worried, Arya immediately went to talk to Aiden. Someone is coming to delete him. However, she wants to reassure him, as she will prevent that from happening, revealing to our protagonist that she also needs him. As soon as she finished her words, an even greater glow filled that place. Aiden had his eyes dazzled by this event, and when the luminous energy faded, he realized he was completely alone. This made him realize that something was happening. Arya was sent back into the game, and this made her extremely angry, manifesting a grand power. She said they had crossed a line, and they shouldn't have tried to implement this while she was in that place. Now, Aiden finds himself completely alone, facing the approaching risk, as someone will come to delete him. Taking a deep breath, he tried to calm down, as he knew something like this would happen soon. That's why he has been working hard to prepare. Finally, we see the giants, the drones, and the moderator. Now, Aiden is determined not to allow himself to be deleted. The moderator looks at him with little interest. For Lloyd, the existence of our protagonist is confusing. It resembles that of a player, while also being an NPC. But since it is a risk to the system, he must be deleted, and the first giant advanced against Aiden. Fortunately, the boy managed to dodge that first blow, immediately drawing a sword that was stored in his inventory. With that weapon, he was able to parry the creature's strikes, but its strength was still far superior. While they were measuring forces, the giant began to concentrate energy in front of its face. Aiden managed to quickly dodge what would have been fatal. Seizing the opportunity, he was able to use his sword to wound the creature. The first giant is now injured. But that didn't stop another from advancing towards our boy, who needed to protect himself, using a shield. But the creature's strength is so great that the instrument began to break. This moment of danger activated the editing skill, increasing all the attributes of our protagonist. He became definitely much stronger than his enemy, but the numerical advantage was still theirs. One of the giants swung its hand like a whip, completely wrapping around Aiden's body, who is now tied up and immobile. In this way, the creature pulled him as if he were a toy, slamming our protagonist's body against the nearest wall. The force of the impact proved to be quite unpleasant. Still tied up in that kind of whip, Aiden is about to continue taking hits, but he decided he wouldn't make things easy. Using another of his skills, the unlocking one, the giant noticed that its whip had become much lighter, and when it looked back, it saw our boy charging furiously towards it. That is not a common strike. Its power was edited, increased threefold, more than enough to completely destroy the creature's body, falling completely defeated to the ground. But Aiden didn't waste any time, immediately approaching the remaining enemy, defeating the creature with a singular blow. Observing the destruction he had caused, Aiden gasped for breath. It was then that he heard Lloyd say he was disappointed, as he thought Aiden was a much greater risk to the system. Apparently, his intervention was unnecessary. At that moment, Aiden tried to react, but was immediately grabbed by the moderator's hands. Lloyd remains incredulous, believing that the maintenance was unnecessary for just that, since all he found was a small piece of trash. Now with Aiden in his hands, he used his exclusive ability, the one to delete, which happens through administrative authority. And for Lloyd, all errors must be exterminated. Aiden's body begins to slowly disappear until a great light completely enveloped him. Aiden felt once again what it is to be deleted. That is different from the ability the administrator used that day, as there were distinct circumstances in both occasions. And for Aiden, that is just child's play. For the first time, Lloyd realized that things were not going to happen as planned. Since Aiden's body was coated with a great power that rejected the order to be deleted, Lloyd stepped back, not understanding what had happened and if his ability had truly been repelled, until the system informed him of what occurred. There is a conflict between the authority of two administrators. Lloyd's is insufficient to delete that target. realizing that his authority would not solve that problem. Lloyd became desperate, struggling to believe that this is true, all while the other moderators watched him. Selena is impressed that such an insignificant error has administrative authority. She had never heard of anything similar to this until the system informs that Aiden's danger level is immeasurable. Lloyd tries to imagine where this error came from, not to mention that he is a moderator and is being repelled. This only made him even more curious about Aiden's identity. On the other hand, our boy realized that the situation is not favorable. Aiden managed to resist that ability, but ended up using too much energy to defeat the guards. Even in perfect conditions, he knows he couldn't defeat this enemy at his current level. Meanwhile, Lloyd is thinking that if he lets the boy go, he will interfere with the system, and if the administrator finds out everything that happened, there will be consequences. So, he decided to take another action. Since he couldn't delete Aiden, he would capture him, as if he were a Pokemon. The other moderators were surprised by this as they know exactly what he is going to try. Selena states that it is the first time she will see Lloyd's fortified form. This is a sign that he is taking that task very seriously. Aiden, who is before that moderator, was impressed, as his appearance had completely transformed. Now he was wearing full armor, and it seems that with it all his attributes were amplified, and Lloyd charged to attack. Aiden tries to react quickly by invoking a skill in his hand, that is the storage cloud, but everything happened too fast and the destruction was already underway. The moderator's strike advanced for hundreds of meters. Lloyd managed to defend himself from that using the cloud, and beside him is a large canyon produced by Lloyd's attack. The moderator is impressed that Aiden managed to defend against that, presuming that he absorbed the energy of the attack using the cloud. Definitely, he has many cards in hand. Now, Lloyd is pointing his sword at him and wants answers, the first of which is how he gained the authority of administrator. Depending on what he hears, Aiden's punishment could be less severe, but our protagonist is already fed up. He knows he will be deleted anyway. And if Lloyd is so curious about this, he will soon find out everything. And before he can continue his sentence, the cloud appeared behind Aiden much larger and more threatening. Lloyd realized that it had grown much bigger. Aiden knows he still can't face the moderator, but for now, this will be enough. When he is ready, he wants Lloyd to seek him out personally. Realizing that this was an escape, the moderator tried to stop him cutting the cloud with his sword, but that blow had no effect. Aiden had disappeared. Lloyd grips his sword, completely furious, trying to understand how the boy can do these things, as leaving that dimension should be impossible without his permission. Lloyd is determined to find Aiden and eliminate him inside the game. Some players come across an open chest. It seems they know about the recent error that subtracted several items to everyone's surprise. A hand began to emerge from that chest, and none of them can say why a person is coming out of it. This only makes the players wonder when this error will be fixed. Sighing in relief, Aiden realized he managed to survive that experience. The other moderators who observed Lloyd's actions asked him to return. Since they need to decide what to do with that person, however, Lloyd said he will hunt him down personally. He will send information to his companions so it can be shared with the other moderators as well. Mia said she was going to leave, and Selena said they need to make a plan, but the girl doesn't care about that, stating that there are more urgent demands. She wanted to know if Lloyd has any complaints about that, and he said no. Finally, she says goodbye to everyone. Now that she is alone, she noticed there is another item on the list. It was when her ears picked up some kind of sound. Surprisingly, Arya is there, saying that Mia listens much more than she speaks. Leaving the moderator surprised, Arya said it has been a while since they last saw each other. Aiden appeared in the city of Mycenae, and after what happened, he entered a dark alley to hide through his friends list. He tries to contact Arya without success. Immediately, he thought something might have happened to her. He realized he didn't have time to wait for her arrival because the moderator will soon be looking for him, so Aiden doesn't know when things might get dangerous again. Knowing he needs to hide and think of a defense strategy, his priority now is to find a safe refuge. On the outskirts of that city, he realized he would never get used to that feeling. This is the first time he returns to the slum after leaving Alice behind. Noticing that a drone was approaching, Aiden managed to hide just in time. But he understood that he shouldn't be surprised by that, as there is surveillance everywhere. Thinking that there would be no way to hide from the moderator, the system's signals began to appear. Those golden petals were flying through the air. They pointed to a path, and Aiden is already familiar with those petals. There must definitely be something at that destination. So, our boy began to follow the signals until he finally reached what seemed to be the conclusion, stopping at a completely dead-end path. At first, there was nothing on that street, but Aiden has a feeling there might be something hidden. Leaning his hand against the wall, he received a shock, realizing that a mysterious energy enveloped that wall completely. It must definitely be another secret part of the game. Thanks to his authority as an administrator, he would certainly be able to gain access, using the unlocking ability right after. And what was once a dead-end path revealed itself to be a large door. Immediately, the system gave a warning. Aiden could not receive the system's protection within that area. But for our boy, this warning is funny, as he doesn't care about this caution, since the system itself wants to delete him, believing he will be much safer on the other side than being chased by the moderator. After passing through the portal, he was transported to another dimension. Looking around, he tries to understand what that place could be. Even though it has corridors and torches, it doesn't look like a dungeon. And he is impressed that something like this was so close to the city, deciding that he should explore it. But he ended up finding a woman, very thin and looking hungry. Aiden was surprised that there were people in that place, and the woman who was carrying something with her hands dropped the object, visibly startled. While Aiden tries to talk to her, the woman started to run. Our protagonist's first reflex was to follow her, as he wanted her to be able to hear him for a few seconds, finally finding a complete settlement of people, and the woman warned everyone that there was an intruder. Everyone there became worried, and Aiden was wondering why there were so many NPCs around. He was immediately attacked, but managed to defend himself from the stones that were thrown. The girl responsible for this asked who he was, and while she executed her attack once more, she asked how he managed to infiltrate. Aiden realized he would continue to be attacked, so he decided to draw his sword to avoid taking any damage. With a quick movement, he managed to surprise that girl and defend himself from her attack. Seeing that, she thought she might be dealing with a player, because if that's the situation, she doesn't need to go easy on him. Worried, everyone tells Siri that she should be cautious, as they will help her too. But Siri said it was fine, and she preferred they didn't interrupt, saying that all those people would only get in their way, all while Aiden analyzed the situation until he finally understood what had happened. All the people there were also errors, and thanks to the skills he had, he knew their level of danger was low. Aiden tried to say that it was all a misunderstanding, but these people didn't want to take his words, believing he had come to delete everyone. Siri said that settlement was made by Sir Sirius, who said that no one but the administrator could enter that region, and now that they had been discovered, she couldn't allow Aiden to leave there alive, until a mysterious voice commanded everyone to stop. The girl immediately realized it was Sirius. The voice said that the boy was not an enemy and should be brought before him. Siri said she would show the way, recommending that our protagonist not think of doing anything wrong, as no one trusted him. If he acted suspiciously, he would not be forgiven. Walking through those corridors, Aiden said he had a question to ask, as he was interested in knowing how they survived through the maintenance and how they remained well. Siri said that Sirius rescued all of them and created that space for them to live. If it weren't for that man's actions, everyone would have been deleted during the maintenance. Finally, she said they had arrived at their destination. Seeing that the hall was very large and empty, Aiden began to wonder where the man could be, and upon feeling the ground tremble, he realized that Sirius had been there the whole time. As it was a huge dragon, the creature said he did a good job getting there, calling Aiden Mr. Administrator. The enormous dragon closely observed our protagonist, who until now remained completely paralyzed, trying to understand that. Using his administrator skill, he tried to understand that creature, realizing that he was a guardian god named Sirius. But there was something erased in his name. It was then that Aiden realized he was not an ordinary NPC. Our boy imagined that dragons were mythical creatures that only appeared in legends, and he heard the creature's voice once more, asking if he was a new administrator. Aiden wanted to know how he knew that, and Sirius said he saw a fragment of his memories, stating that he was truly grateful. The Dragon's Eye is an exclusive skill that allows one to see the true essence of a being, and knowing all of our boy's story, Sirius saw in him the hope, as he could fix the errors. Siri heard this from the dragon and asked if our protagonist could really heal the errors, while the dragon believed he had finally found the one who was destined to appear. After that, his whole body shone, until his great appearance began to transform, becoming something with a human appearance. He began to talk to Aiden, asking that this other administrator could hear his requests. A new mission appeared for Aiden, and beside him, Siri was still confused. Sirius's task is the mission. Aiden needs to protect all the NPCs who are his followers, and there will be a great reward for that. Siri was worried about Sirius, as his mana was very unstable and taking that form could be risky, but the dragon said it was all right. Aiden realized that this was not a conventional mission, and should first listen to what the dragon had to say before making his decision. The two went outside, where there were several people commenting on what had happened. Siri pushed away all the curious onlookers, as this was very important. And finally, Aiden asked what the dragon's wish was. Sirius said it was very simple. He just wanted all those people to be taken to Aiden's village to be healed. As he might have noticed, everyone in that place, without exception, are errors. Until now, Sirius had helped them escape the maintenance, but he was already at his limit. Revealing to our protagonist what caused all this, a large wound was on his chest and he was no longer able to suppress it. The system warns that the danger level of that virus is very high. Sirius believes that not even our protagonist can reverse his situation, believing that it is already too late for him. However, Sirius's last hope is that those people can be saved. Outside, Siri heard everything. If Aiden could help them, Sirius would give them his star. At that moment, Siri interrupted their conversation, telling Sirius not to do something like that. The girl is visibly distraught. She did not want to hear those words from Sirius, but the dragon believes that there is no solution for his condition and apologized to the girl. He could only go that far, and this is the only way to protect everyone, for as time passes, he becomes weaker and weaker. Sirius tries to comfort Siri, who ended up knowing all of that. It was when Aiden said that he doesn't need that star, even if he doesn't know what it means, claiming that he would help all those people anyway, since it is not a difficult task to accomplish. Be it errors or the system, he will rid himself of everything that puts him in danger, and the system said that Aiden accepted that mission. In another place, with all the people gathered, they are at the top of an altar. The NPCs there are still incredulous about the ability of this intruder to heal the errors. Even so, Sirius has never been wrong before, so they decided to believe in him. Focusing once again, Aiden has his eyes closed, and he returned to that data dimension where he saw all the people. Just like those lines that look like circuits, seeing that there are more people than he expected, he estimated there to be around 50. But there was one person among all those who needed urgent help. It is none other than Sirius himself. Seeing the infection spreading over him, Aiden realized that this is not good, for the virus is spreading deeper and deeper. If Aiden ignores this situation, something very bad will happen. And using his sword, he tried to cut the dragon's error. After receiving that attack, the virus reacted against our protagonist. After being enveloped by a kind of tentacle, Aiden tried to understand what that could be, as it tried to swallow him. This only made him even more irritated with that error. Releasing his power like a super saiyan, he exploded those tentacles, causing them to retreat to the wound on the dragon's chest. Aiden's energy shone brighter and brighter, and its glow seemed lethal to the virus. Determined, he would make it perish at any cost. Gasping, on the other side of the hall, Aiden said he had already warned them. He would rid himself of all the errors. Now they need not fear being deleted during maintenance. The system informed that the update was completed. 50 people were added to the reborn class, and the NPCs celebrated. Sirius said he is very grateful to our boy, for he never imagined that being healed was a possibility. He said he would never forget what happened in that place. Then, a malevolent and mysterious presence appeared, saying that a great chess piece would soon be born. Even so, Aiden seems to have demolished all its efforts in an instant. The system almost crashed. Various warning messages tried to inform our protagonist of that danger. All his abilities have now been restricted. Certain commands cannot be used. And the mysterious figure, which is the virus itself, asked what our protagonist is. Shortly after that, the system was suspended. The mysterious figure with horns on its head oppresses them all with its presence. Sirius seems to recognize him and was frightened by this. They had faced each other in the past and the dragon believed he had exterminated that threat. Smiling deceitfully, the virus called him a fool, for he would not be defeated in that event. Even so, the virus laments what happened, for it could have infected that entire place, just as it did with the place where the dragon used to live. Reliving those memories made Sirius deeply angry. Returning to transform, he believes that the virus must have an intense desire to hasten the end of its own life. He continued to be provoked by the virus, which said that all his actions were irrelevant. Since the real villains are the administrators who delete the errors, then the dragon shouldn't be upset with him anyway. The virus doesn't care about that, as it doesn't need those people since it found something much more interesting. And after saying that, it looked at Aiden approaching him very quickly, and in a very suspicious manner gathering energy in one of its hands. It called our protagonist a vessel, striking Aiden's abdomen with that blow. A system screen said he was infected, and Aiden realized that the strange energy was taking over his body. Sirius tried to prevent this from happening, saying that the virus should face him, but looking at his old rival, the virus seemed to have disdain for him, manifesting its power in a devastating way. It destroyed the ground while pushing everyone away. The system was not functioning properly, and the firewall disappeared. Sirius and Siri, who were there, seemed to have been affected by these changes. They fell to their knees while agonizing, and the virus said they didn't need to go through this experience again, since even the administrator doesn't know this place. He needs to be very cautious. The virus managed to infect everyone, but in front of him, Aiden continued to resist bravely, showing that he would not be infected by his enemy. However, Aiden realized that the situation was serious and needed to get out of there immediately. He tried to use the unlock command, but his attempt failed as the system was not operational. It was then that the boy finally understood the risk of his current situation. The virus said it didn't know what he was trying to do, but everything was useless. That couldn't be fixed just with strength. Now that they don't have the firewall, it's up to Aiden to accept what is happening. As he was engulfed by the virus's energy, the boy began to reflect on his situation. Seeing himself in a bottomless pit, Aiden didn't know how things ended up this way. The darkness was so great that he had no hope left. It was then that a yellow and characteristic glow appeared before him that seemed to be getting stronger and stronger. Aiden realized that the luminous energy was pushing the darkness away, and in the form of a small girl, that glow touched his face. His first impression was that it was his little sister, and indeed, there was something very similar to her before him. Outside, the virus noticed that the cocoon it had wrapped Aiden in was breaking. Not even it could say what might have caused that. Seeing firsthand that the hero had inexplicably freed himself, the system informed our boy that a new system was being built, and now Aiden knew exactly which command to use, for he had received the ability to delete as well. Using it immediately against his enemy, the virus realized what was happening to its body, but what it couldn't understand was how a child could use a moderator's ability, since the delete command shouldn't be for everyone. The system also informed about the firewall ability that provides defense for Aiden at the level of an administrator. That was what prevented him from being engulfed, and now Aiden's power shone intensely. His energy completely enveloped the bodies of the people who were there, even those NPCs he had saved on another occasion. Finally, the update happened for everyone. This is version 0.1, and thanks to that infection no longer works against them. The virus smiled slyly while being erased, but our boy didn't understand the joke. His enemy revealed that it finally understood everything, for it now knew how to reach the administrator, since the existence of our protagonist is what they are looking for, ensuring that one day Faria would belong to him, no matter what happens. Finally, its presence was completely eradicated from that dimension. Then, Sirius referred to our boy as administrator, for he wanted to know if he was okay. The dragon was impressed with our boy's ability to use the delete command, and through everything he did, he benefited everyone living there. Sirius was unable to do anything, and felt powerless without the system's defense. Even so, things were still not over, for that place was filled with matter left by the virus. Even those small portions could be dangerous, and concentrating his power in one hand, Sirius would not allow them to continue existing. But something completely surprised him. The dragon's gaze immediately changed. Before eradicating part of that matter, he was hit by several thorns. The scene is desperate. Siri starts to scream. Our protagonist tries to help, but the tentacles lift the dragon's body high, and the virus revealed itself once again, saying it forgot to tell them something. Its true specialty is multiplication and replication. Aiden knows he needs to act soon, so he grabbed his sword. He completely severed the tentacles that were holding Sirius's body. As soon as the dragon fell to the ground, Siri rushed to him to help. She is desperate and asked the dragon to try to open his eyes. On the other side, Aiden is furious, trying to understand how that virus remains alive, as it was deleted. Smiling, the virus said he is just a fool, as this is not the first time he has been deleted. Unless he is an administrator, getting rid of him completely is impossible. This only increased Aiden's rage to stratospheric levels. He used his deletion ability once more, eradicating the copies of the virus that were before his eyes. He did this in a furious manner, yet it seemed the virus was endless, and the creature realized that our boy has the authority to do that multiple times. Even so, his efforts would be futile, and it began to attack him. Aiden needed to defend himself from that, pulling a powerful shield from his storage. But even that enhanced artifact was unable to withstand the virus's force, which now had a clear path to continue attacking him. Before being hit, Aiden remembered he had a sword in hand. However, after cutting those tentacles, he realized his item was contaminated, and the sword broke in his hand as if it were rotten. He realized that, just like his fight against the moderator, the items are useless, and now, he has a formidable opponent in his way. It seems the virus is just toying with him. His tools are completely useless, and the virus had multiplied, suggesting that Aiden give up. Sighing heavily, our boy does not want to do that. Nothing he has tried so far has worked. Having a virus as an enemy is truly complicated. Then, the creature said that it lost its fun, and now it needs to take him for itself. The problem is that the firewall is a headache, showing itself to be much more aggressive. The virus already knows what to do. Trying to envelop our protagonist, it said it would take him whole, but Aiden rebelled once again, as he will not allow that to happen. This time, he pressed the delete button with great force and determination, creating a great wave of power around his entire body. Even so, it didn't take long for him to be enveloped again by the virus's energy, which told our boy that it is useless, since his ability to delete the virus is not as fast as its ability to multiply. All he needs to do now is accept that he is lost, and when he opens his eyes again, it will all be over. While our boy fights furiously, Sirius tried to get up, still coughing a lot. Siri said she would try to do something, attempting to heal him with her magic and asking him to hold on a little longer, but it seems the dragon already knows what needs to be done, telling the girl not to worry. She knows her abilities cannot fix what happened to Sirius, and it is his fault for being careless. This only leaves Siri even more desolate, as they have now found a way to live in peace. She does not accept the cruelty of this world. Making his body shine, Sirius apologized to her, saying that the girl should use that to help the new administrator. That is the only way. And bringing his hand to his chest, the glow became even stronger. This artifact will be able to help everyone. Meanwhile, Aiden is almost being completely engulfed by the virus. He is already at the limit of his strength and does not know what to do. Trying to move his hands to free himself, he realized he needs to think of a way to escape. Anything could help him. It was then that Aiden realized he had not tried everything. He had with him a very useful tool. It is the hammer capable of destroying anything. It belonged to his little sister. And then, Aiden began to think about why it had not yet been destroyed by the virus. And now that the hammer was in his hand, he began to emanate an intense power. Immediately, Aiden realized that this is his way out of that prison. And now, with the hammer in hand, he will use the delete command. The first impact completely shatters the virus's energy, spreading its matter in all directions. The creature, once again, does not know what is happening. A bound weapon could only be used by people with the administrator's authorization, and apparently, not even Aiden knows how this works. Even so, he was able to use his ability on that instrument. The virus realized that his opponent is a lucky person, and that he had underestimated him. However, he continues to be much weaker, and that hammer is not enough to stop him. Before being attacked by the creature, a shining blue stone appeared before Aiden's eyes. His mission was complete, and now he was reaping his reward. That is the Star of Sirius. In his last moments, the dragon spoke with this new administrator, asking him to use this artifact. Aiden wouldn't need to hear that order twice and prepared his hammer, striking the jewel immediately with the artifact. This caused a great reaction in the place where they were, and a mysterious energy began to emerge. It was so intense and brutal that it eradicated any shadow caused by the virus. The creature realized that its presence was being exterminated. Again, the virus, which should have been the variable of unpredictability there, couldn't tell what was happening. It had never seen a weapon like this before, and now, what was once a hammer, had transformed into a flaming sword. That is an exclusive item of Aiden, a reinforced sword. The virus also realized that its situation was much more complicated than it had imagined, as now it was unable to continue making copies. Only one type of person could do that, but before it could say anything, our protagonist struck it brutally. The only ones with authority to do so are the administrators and Sir Trojan, but for the virus, that no longer mattered. Gathering what was left of its body, it said that the time for games was over, wanting to return our protagonist whole and in good working condition, but now, that would not be possible. Opening its mouth in a terrifying manner, the virus prepared to launch an attack, saying that if our boy had accepted his fate, this wouldn't happen. And as a fine example of a narcissistic person, it said that everything that will happen now is Aiden's fault, launching a truly devastating attack towards the boy. But the sword made from the indestructible hammer was ready for that situation. Aiden was prepared to use his privileged commands. He was going to completely delete that, and with a single strike, he divided that attack entirely, while simultaneously overpowering that creature of darkness. The attack advanced as the virus was eradicated. They were underground, and that battle became so intense that the forest above them was destroyed as well, as Aiden's attack made its way toward the sky, leaving behind only the rubble of that place. After using all that accumulated energy, the hammer returned to its original form. It seemed to have grown tired after reaching its climax, and our boy was also very breathless after that hard and intense battle. Looking up, he observed hundreds of meters of rock that he had destroyed with that single blow. In a distant region, a great barrier of light appeared. The system tried to inform what had happened, but it seemed to be corrupted, and the information finally returned to its owner, who understood that one of its copies had disappeared. It was probably deleted by a moderator or administrator. Even so, the original virus was curious to witness the last moments of its clone, and after seeing those memories, it became interested, since it saw in our protagonist an interesting object. And perhaps this is the tool it needs to overcome the administrator. The name of this virus is Worm. As it said that Sir Trojan would also be excited about this, it noticed a fire attack approaching, and a great explosion occurred in the region where it was. Part of the virus's body was consumed by the attack. But, Demonstrating great resilience, it began to regenerate automatically. It was not expecting the presence of that unusual guest. Who attacked it was the moderator Mia, and it had been a long time since their last encounter. She was looking for Worm, recognizing that it had done a good job hiding until now. Shortly after that, she resumed unleashing a barrage of devastating blows. A hell of flames took over that region. Worm said it was impressed as she managed to find it. Fortunately, the administrator did not know they were there, so Worm realized it had the advantage, believing that Mia was not strong enough to defeat it, saying that if she came there alone, it was because she underestimated it. The moderator got this location through Arya, who knew where the virus was hiding. The hypothesis suggested by the player was too obvious, and Mia realized that, as a moderator, she should have reached that conclusion on her own. Advancing once more to attack, she said that her strength was more than enough to eradicate it, creating a succession of absurdly dangerous explosions. Even so, Worm managed to dodge all of them, and this time, it was time for him to return the favor, sending its tentacles to bind the body of the moderator, who was now completely surrounded by the virus's energy. It was already expecting to subjugate the strength of a moderator alone, and creating blades with its energy, it was ready to put an end to it all. Sending his attacks towards Mia, he said that she is the only one responsible for what will happen. The force of the impact is so strong that it caused a small explosion. Amidst the dust of the debris, Worm approaches, seeing that within the dust there is a glow that grows brighter and brighter, discovering at the last second that it is an attack that hit his body precisely. Thanks to his regeneration ability, he remains alive. Mia is now surrounded by blue flames, and around her body are two enormous gauntlets. He also said that she is the one being underestimated on this occasion, and now she will delete him. Back to our protagonist. They do everything possible to restore Sirius's health. Siri has him in her lap and continues to cry, and the wounds caused by the virus are spreading across his body like a deadly poison. The dragon in his last moments begins to revisit his memories, remembering days when his body was trapped by great chains. Even though he was powerful, he could not break free. Looking at the administrator, he asked why this was happening to him, but the administrator remained in complete silence. Sirius dug his claws into the ground, trying to free himself from those bindings, saying he didn't understand this. He did not agree with the fate of humans and innocents having to be deleted. In his view, the administrators should protect these people, but instead, they irresponsibly abandoned them simply because they failed to protect. Sirius took on the role of being a creature that protects these humans, as he received this task from the administrator himself. In light of this, he cannot understand how the administrator changed his point of view so much, for he was not always like this. The dragon still remembers well when he was younger. In those days, the administrator did not wear a mask to hide his face, and now he seems much colder and darker. With each update, the number of viruses only increases, and he cannot let the situation spiral out of control, which is why he continues to delete the problems, and every NPC that challenges the order is eliminated. Currently, Dragon Sirius is an imminent risk, so the administrator would block him from the system, causing several cubes to appear around those chains. Realizing he would be sealed, Sirius tried to ask the administrator to change his mind, because this is exactly what they want him to do. But even in the face of that advice, the administrator completely ignored him. Thus, Sirius was confined in that huge prison, unable to do anything. A long time passed, and a village developed nearby, until the dragon found himself completely devoid of his old and radiant form. The events that were etched in the past cannot be changed, and he began to think that perhaps this was the will of the system, and that it was up to him to accept it, until a small hand touched the scales darkened by time, and the dragon noticed a small child who was there. That young girl is Siri, and she is wearing very worn clothes and has a tired appearance. Sirius realized she was completely alone. Some humans had come there on another occasion, but they all were afraid to approach the creature. Even so, they left many tributes for him, among treasures and food. After a while, they realized he was not hostile. He was just an NPC, and the players did not pay much attention to him either. That child, on the other hand, decided to stay around. Sirius asked if she didn't have a place to go back to, especially if she had any kind of family, and the girl shook her head negatively. So, Sirius said that if she wanted, she could stay there, because he would share his name with her too. Thus, Siri became family to the dragon. She was completely different from the other NPCs. She had a great natural talent for magic, so Sirius taught her how to protect herself. However, she remained human, and he could not keep her by his side forever, so he sent Siri back to her village, so she could adapt. He no longer had the task of taking care of her, and even so, watching her from afar while she was happy gave him enough satisfaction, until one day he encountered a virus again. That repulsive power, he is sure it is the same as last time. Knowing of the virus's presence, Sirius tried to use the strength he had left to break his chains. He knew that if he didn't hurry, those people would be at risk. The virus looked back. surprised by the emergence of this creature. It's not every day you see an angry dragon. Sirius immediately succumbed to rage, attacking the virus, as he is responsible for everything that happened. But his enemy is cunning and deadly, and the virus realized that this creature is a much better reward than the entire city. Now it's too late. That whole area is contaminated with his infection. As he is a good vessel, he will plant something special inside him. In light of this, the virus hoped that the dragon would not be deleted. He could try very hard, but he would be unable to change his fate. The system informed that a temporary maintenance would begin. Immediately, the moderators started to act, as a fatal error was found in that place. In the company of the moderator are the giants. That whole area, along with its NPCs, will be completely deleted, and the cleaning process was put into action by the creatures that serve the moderators. Sirius could only watch as the city was completely destroyed. History was repeating itself. To him, the administrator now exists only to delete errors. Sirius does not want to allow this to happen, so he used his magic to teleport everyone who was there, as he will fulfill his mission to protect those people. Amidst all this, he remembered the day he was created and named by the administrator himself, who wished for him to be a light capable of guiding those who are lost, and to be the brightest star in the entire sky. That was the purpose of the young dragon. The administrator is in his own dimension, analyzing all the data, until something in particular caught his eye. Sirius's name no longer shines, and for a brief moment, he ignored everything that was happening, realizing that the dragon he had created no longer exists in that place. And even in his own way, the administrator experienced a brief mourning. After all that happened, our protagonist was taken outside. Aiden still does not know exactly how things are, but he is surprised that there are abilities as convenient as this one. That was a very easy trip thanks to what Siri did for all of them. So Aiden thanked the girl for what she had done, pointing to the horizon. He showed the place he manages, not far from there, and the trip should not take long. Siri approached our boy because she had something to say. She wanted to thank him, as if it weren't for Aiden's actions, none of them would be alive. And with tears in her eyes, she also wanted to express her gratitude for him being the one responsible for deleting Sirius, who was already completely compromised by the virus. If it weren't for that, he would certainly have turned into a virus as well, and she is sure that Sirius would not want a fate like that. Now, Aiden opened a new path for those survivors, and Siri wants to honor the wishes of the one who was her father and follow our protagonist. The system notified that Siri and 50 people are now residents of our protagonist's village. While everyone travels there, Aiden has a question to ask her. He wants to know what that star was that Sirius spoke of, and the girl said she doesn't know many details either. All she can say is that it is the true source of Sirius's power. She also knows that there is not just one, but multiple jewels like that. This is all the knowledge she has on the subject. And looking at his hammer, Aiden is sure it was not just his imagination. His authority as an administrator has not increased, but it went to level 4 after he absorbed that star, if it weren't for him obtaining that artifact. But the virus, things could be very different. His thoughts are interrupted by Siri's voice, announcing that they have finally arrived at their destination, and now they can all see our protagonist's village. There are many ruins in that place, a sign that they will need to work hard. Finally, Aiden hears the voices of his first followers. They were all eagerly awaiting our boy's return. Aiden was a bit surprised, as by the reception it was as if they knew he would come back. Then the boy said that someone was already waiting for him, and our protagonist heard a very familiar voice. Arya hugged him from behind, as she was sure he would return. The girl said she was very worried about him, and stated that she would not leave him alone again. And looking at all those people, she said he came very well accompanied. Then she asked what was happening. Aiden said he would explain everything later, but Siri, seeing that, began to tremble with fear, for she could feel a great magical power coming from Arya. It resembled the power that Sirius had, but looking closer, she realized it was much more intense. Then, Aiden asked what she had been up to. Arya looked deeply at him, informing that soon our boy would discover everything that happened. At that moment, a kind of shooting star shone in the sky, and a great impact occurred in that place. People were confused, as it seemed someone had fallen from the sky. At first they thought it could be a player, but they soon recognized who that girl was. It was a moderator, and her name is Mia. Worried, the NPCs thought they should flee, while others wanted to stay. As they are not cowards, Aiden immediately became concerned, as he knew this could mean he would have to fight again, and this time it was against a moderator. If things needed to escalate, he would have to use his hammer. But to his surprise, the girl before his eyes began to apologize, saying very disappointed that she let him escape. Aiden, who didn't understand anything, saw the moderator run towards Arya. Mia was hugging her in tears, apologizing for what had happened, but Arya was very understanding with her, saying that the girl must have certainly tried her best. Only then did Arya apologize to our protagonist for what was happening, as he must be very confused. It was time to introduce them. The one who is hugging her is named Mia, and she is a moderator, one of the few people Arya trusts in this world. Even so, Aiden is left completely speechless. Later that same day, people are gathered and much more at ease. Sitting at a table are Arya and our protagonist, which makes him reminisce about old times. Aiden remains quite suspicious of the presence of that girl. Siri and the guy with the streak in his hair are also there and seem visibly uncomfortable. Aiden said that Mia is one of the people who deletes NPCs, so he wants to know why she is with them. The girl said she is just doing her job, all to protect the system, stating that errors must be eliminated. Completely furious, Aiden said there must be other ways to do this. People don't need to be deleted. Mia said they don't do it on purpose, as there is no other way to preserve everything else. The two enter into a heated discussion about what they should do. Mia asserts that it is not up to our boy to dictate what she needs to execute, claiming that it is impossible to fix an error. Arya interrupts the discussion, asking both to calm down, but Mia made it clear that not even the administrator can resolve the errors. In light of that, Arya said she would get straight to the point. Asking if our protagonist intends to become a true administrator, he seems to be caught off guard by this question. Arya made it clear that to achieve his goals, he needs to become a true administrator. As soon as he learned this, Aiden was quite surprised. He didn't understand what Arya wanted with this. First she brought a moderator there, and now she wants him to become an administrator. Aiden revealed that he can't imagine what she is trying to do, then asked what Arya's goal is. The player revealed that she wishes to usurp the position of the current administrator, and apologized to our protagonist, as she still cannot reveal all the details to him, but made it very clear that she never lies. She also knows that Aiden is on a personal journey of revenge against the administrator, and since they have a common goal, they could cooperate to achieve it. Arya acknowledges that she needs Aiden's help, as it would be impossible alone. Due to a punishment she received from the administrator, she cannot use a large part of the system. After hearing all this, Aiden thought he had many questions to ask, and he was very curious about what she could not reveal yet. Quite excited, Arya asked if Aiden would like to talk about how they would plan things from then on. It is not enough to just have authority in the system. To become a true administrator, he needs to generate content, and the best way to do this is by having Aiden experience everything that world can offer, fighting against players and conquering dungeons. Mia immediately became worried, as she doesn't know if Aiden is a good candidate for administrator. In her opinion, Arya is the ideal candidate. Without saying anything, the girl observes Mia with an understanding look. Then she gently patted her head, making Mia realize that her opinion is a bit inappropriate. While they are talking, someone opened the door to that place. It is one of the villagers who had a message to deliver to our protagonist. They were advised to share their food with the newcomers, but perhaps they do not have enough. So, he asked Aiden to use the storage one more time. Mia heard those words, and she witnessed firsthand Aiden using the cloud, taking out a large amount of food from there. The moderator knows this is exclusive to players. She immediately remembered the players' complaints about the storage limitation and the disappearing items. Seeing our protagonist use that with ease left her completely saddened until she started to get angry. Biting our protagonist's hand, she said those items are not free, as he surely took them from the players. While the two resolve their differences through violence, Arya smiles calmly. He asked why Arya brought that girl there, but the player told Aiden not to be upset because the moderator is there to help everyone. In fact, she said yes to trying to do a very difficult favor, and until now, Arya couldn't talk to Aiden because she was in a meeting with Mia. Aiden has already been noticed by all the moderators, and for the plans to happen smoothly, they need to escape their trail. For that to happen, Arya will shift the focus of those people. Aiden wants to know how she will put that into practice, but the girl said it's a secret, revealing that there are other beings that also put that world at risk. Just like the system immediately, Aiden remembered the viruses. So he asked if Arya was talking about them, which ended up surprising the player quite a bit, because she didn't imagine Aiden already had discernment regarding that type of being, becoming even more shocked when she learned he faced a virus before meeting her. The boy was about to finish his explanation, but Arya, visibly worried, placed her hands on his body. Aiden didn't understand what that meant, but the player was trying to check for any kind of infection that might have proliferated in him. Thinking that something bad might have happened, she continued desperately as the virus approached Aiden, even knowing his abilities. Finally, Aiden held her hands and told her to calm down. Distressed, she said she did that because Aiden revealed he encountered a virus, and if that happens again, he should abandon everything and flee immediately, because they are much more dangerous than the administrator or the moderators, and in his current state, he would be swallowed in an instant. It's a miracle he survived that, to which Aiden agrees. He knows he escaped by a hair, but assured her that everything is fine and that he was able to delete the virus. As soon as she heard that, Arya was left speechless. She asked him to confirm the information once more, and Aiden said he received help. If it weren't for her, it would certainly have been impossible. The player thought that deleting a virus is not something easy to do. This only confirms her suspicion about our protagonist, that he might be an administrator with great potential. Then Aiden asked her if the reason NPCs are being deleted is the virus. If this is not resolved quickly, the entire system will collapse. And now, the only solution to maintain the status quo is to delete the errors. He understands the logic that validates these actions, but he will never forgive the administrator for what has been done. Innocent people have been deleted because of this. Even if they haven't been infected, the current system is wrong. Whether it's the administrator or the virus, things need to be restructured, and Aiden said he will do that as the new administrator. Hearing that brief speech, Arya seems to have become hopeful, and said she fully agrees with Aiden, as that is a task only he can execute. Then she would share with him a way to encourage that determination, asking if Aiden knows what he needs to do first. He needs to choose his own moderators, because even the administrator cannot manage all the information in the system alone. Arya volunteered for that, saying she would be his first moderator. After everything that happened, the moderators gathered again. Someone wants to change their plans. Lloyd asked what is being suggested, as there is much work to do regarding the errors, and they were gathered there because initially, this is an emergency meeting, but everything he just heard makes no sense. He believes Mia must have some hidden motive. A man placed his boots on the table, saying she probably has nothing, and that it will happen the same way as before. His name is Duke, and the woman next to him is named Isabel, so his desire is to expedite that meeting. But Mia said she wasn't in a good mood at that moment, so she recommended that he listen to her carefully, or he could end up being beaten up by her again. Immediately Duke recoiled, and Mia said there was an emergency in that meeting. She managed to find the main body of the worm virus, and as soon as she revealed this, everyone was surprised, because the moderators know who he is. The other viruses are not as problematic as this guy, and he is the greatest danger to the stability of the system because he can replicate easily. He was hiding in a bad sector. Now that they know his location, this is the perfect time to track him down. Mia also sent a report to the administrator telling everyone that the time has come to delete this enemy. This is the emergency she shared with her fellow moderators. They realized that something grand is about to happen. They felt a great power approaching that meeting. An unknown person is coming closer. She is a guardian deity of the system, and her name is Procyon. She came there to speak with the moderators. In her company is the system administrator. He rarely appears in person for most matters, so the moderators are curious. Mia thought he might have read the report that had been sent. Maybe he will resolve this matter personally. Near the village of our boy, he is talking to Arya, still very surprised by her self-invitation, as she would be his first moderator. Then a screen from the system appeared for him, asking if he would like to assign the moderator role to Arya. Aiden realized this is the first step to becoming a true administrator. So far, he has received a lot of help from this girl, who not only understands the system very well, but is also a skilled fighter. So there is no better candidate now to be his first moderator. Given this, there was only one possible choice: to agree to it. Immediately, a great light completely enveloped the player's body. Now she regained access to the system, and the firewall was reactivated. Arya realized what happened. She could hardly contain her excitement. Aiden thought there was something wrong with her, but he found Arya completely emotional about what had happened. She said everything had been very difficult until now, but what our boy wants is for her to stop hugging him. After she calmed down, Aiden realized she is very strong, and this seems to have taken root in his mind, as he now wants to know what her level is. He decided to check this through the system, but her status is still hidden, and her karma number is very confusing. Then, the system asked if Aiden would like to use his administrator authority to access this data. For him, this is the perfect occasion, as he was becoming very curious. But when he tried to do this, an error occurred. He does not have enough authority to access this data, as this information was blocked by another administrator. Aiden realized he wouldn't be able to access it, and looking at Arya, very curious, he wanted to know what she did to receive such a punishment. The next day, the villagers of his village began working early to rebuild that place. Everyone is dedicated and focused on this task. Aiden is also participating in the organization. They need to gather resources. The supplies he had allocated have already run out, and now they need to acquire more items. The villagers want to be able to protect themselves from the creatures in that region. Near that place, there is a dungeon, and they decided to investigate. The man with a streak in his hair said it would be complicated to go alone, so he called Siri to accompany him. To help them, Aiden opened the cloud to grab some items, then remembered Mia's complaints, as those items belonged to the players. Trying to avoid problems, he decided not to take the items, when Arya appeared very interested in the subject, asking if they were going to a dungeon. Aiden said he wouldn't accompany those people, which left his friend confused. She didn't care if the people went or not, but assured him that he should go too. Now the small group is in front of the gate of that dungeon. Aiden looks at it still a bit apprehensive. This is his second experience in a place like this, and he encountered very dangerous creatures inside, so he's being very cautious. Arya asked everyone to wait. She imagined that Aiden would enter recklessly since he doesn't understand how dungeons work, immediately asking if he knows what kind of demonic creatures usually appear, or what items he should take, or what the cleaning methods are. With confidence, she asked if Aiden had ever defeated a demonic creature. They are different from wild animals that appear near villages. They can use magic and set traps capable of doing everything a player can do. Knowing this, she forbade Aiden from using his administrator abilities inside that place. From that day on, he will start clearing dungeons so that he can understand their content more and more, gaining experience. All of this is necessary for him to one day become the administrator and gain experience. This is the only way to become stronger, since none of them are now conventional NPCs. Now that they are inside the dungeon, they need to defeat those monsters. Aiden's group is surrounded by them. He realized they needed to retreat immediately, as the creatures keep appearing from everywhere. They managed to find refuge to catch their breath, and Aiden realized that Arya was right all along. He wasn't taking the risks of the dungeon seriously, and, if it weren't for her advice, he would have fallen into traps, or would have been ambushed as well. This would make everything even harder, as there are creatures immune to physical damage, just like those that are immune to magical damage. Quite tired, they were found by Arya. She approaches them, passing through dangerous creatures without taking any damage, and said she needed to find something first. With a simple strike, she defeats those creatures in a devastating manner, asserting that it is more tiring to defeat the monsters than to withstand their attacks. However, she noticed that they had already managed to reap the first results. Arya imagined that this dungeon might be a bit dangerous for them, but Aiden and his companions leveled up. The NPCs are surprised that they now have the ability to level up, as they can feel the power growing in their bodies. Now they understand why players are so obsessed with this. Arya said that this is only possible thanks to Aiden's power, stating that everyone has now been updated. If it weren't for Aiden, none of this would have been possible. And our boy is getting a bit embarrassed. They continue advancing deeper into the dungeon until they find the boss hall. Ciri can feel a powerful energy inside and doesn't know if they will be able to defeat it, but Arya said they need to go in soon. However, Aiden asked her to be a bit more reasonable, since they almost died several times in there. Then the boy asked something to Aiden, as he is very curious now. He knows they are no longer NPCs, so he wants to know what would happen if they lost their lives. Normally they are revived by the system, but now he fears they might perish permanently, as if they had been deleted. Immediately Arya told them not to worry about that. As the system's blessing, the firewall is active in all of them. This is a symbol that they are all protected from external attacks. There is also a function that prevents permanent death, but it cannot revive the dead. Instead, it restores the user's body before death and teleports them to the designated village. This should happen in the city where they are allocated. Arya said that this is not a function that players or conventional NPCs can see. They need to reach the moderator level. Now they can stop talking about that and start having a bit more practical experiences. She knows that everyone wants to become stronger, and for that they need to defeat the creature that is on the other side of the door. Knowing this, Aiden filled himself with determination. While they are in the dungeon, the people in the village work hard until they were surprised by a reddish glow in the sky that crashed brutally to the ground of that place. They realized it was Aiden's group. After regaining composure, our protagonist asked if everyone was okay. Now they confirmed that they didn't die, but this was their first time being defeated by a demonic creature. However, the experience was very confusing. They are sure they were defeated. The start of the fight happened normally until the creature summoned a great power before them all. Our protagonist group realized that it had the potential to be fatal, and they were all eradicated by a large area attack. Arya immediately approached Aiden, saying that players call that an annihilation move, a trick that few bosses possess. Defeating creatures like this is the best part of clearing a dungeon, but Aiden finds all of that completely unreasonable and doesn't know how to defeat this monster. But Arya already told him that each boss has a way to be defeated. If he still doesn't know the answer, there is no other choice but to face it directly once again, and that is exactly what Aiden did. He no longer knows what number this attempt is, nor does he have any idea how to defeat that enemy. His small group seems completely ineffective against the power of that boss who is now prepared to use his annihilation move once again. Aiden ordered his companions to intervene, as they cannot let the attack be completed, but their attacks are ineffective. As she is protected by a magical barrier, Aiden realized that at this pace they would be defeated again. It was then that he noticed the jewels levitating around the boss. He immediately jumped towards one of them, and with his sword was ready to strike the first of the jewels. With a precise blow, he managed to destroy all of them that interrupted the creature's annihilating attack. Aiden realized that his plan had worked. This is their chance to win, ordering his companions to attack the weakened creature finally. After a few attempts, they managed to defeat it. Aiden received a new task he managed to clear the mine of the village Erzge, and with that reached level 60. Having achieved that first victory, everyone was excited, and the NPCs are grateful for Aiden's contribution. While they were celebrating, a chest began to materialize in the hall. The rewards would be distributed among all inside. It were several items and some riches. Siri is impressed with the mana crystals, as they are worth a lot of money. Aiden is satisfied with the results, as they cannot rely on the system cloud forever. With this, the village can become self-sufficient without his intervention. Arya congratulated our boy for what he had accomplished. She had a favor to ask. She requested the NPCs to collect the items while she spoke privately with Aiden. The player asked him to come a little closer, saying seriously that there is still much work ahead. The two walked through the corridors of that place. Aiden seems to recognize this area, as it is very similar to the other dungeon. He thought he might encounter another creature like that. But Arya was taking him to a secret hall. She revealed that this is the reason she was working alone, showing him the guardian of that dungeon, who appeared to be asleep. He is one of the system's guards and has been positioned in various dungeons, tasked with deleting errors that occur within that place, as well as preventing the escape of demonic creatures. Aiden became worried and asked if that is what happens when one of those guardians is destroyed, but Arya believes that the system places another in its place, which left our protagonist quite relieved. Arya asked if Aiden knows why he was brought there, as she plans for him to use his administrator authority to make that guardian belong to him. If they change too many things at once, the true administrator will notice everything, so it's better to start acting cautiously. She assured him it wouldn't be too difficult for him, so it's worth a try, just like he did with the NPCs. Immediately, Aiden extended his hand towards the creature, and upon making contact with it, a great light emerged. The eyes of that guardian began to glow, and the system informed that the dungeon's administrator had changed. In this way, Aiden managed to register himself as the new administrator, making that guardian obey his orders. Arya congratulated him for what happened, stating that this region is now under his supervision, which is a good start. Aiden realized that at this pace there would be no problems. Also needing the presence of more moderators, he needs someone trustworthy, and Arya is not enough. Worried, the girl wanted to know if there is something that concerns him, stating that she could moderate a region like that, but her true fear is imagining that he still doesn't trust her enough. If that is the case, she believes it is understandable, as there is much information she has kept from him. Even so, she stated that she wants to do her best so they can achieve their goals. However, Aiden said she misunderstood everything, as he needs her to accompany him, and he was curious to notice that she imagined what would happen in that region, as he needs her company to explore that world. There are objects he also needs to find to increase his authority as an administrator. He no longer cares about the secrets she holds or the reasons that make her hide all this, as she is now his moderator. So, she should be prepared to start working hard. Relieved, Arya said. He doesn't need to worry about that, as she would do her best to ensure he becomes a true administrator. Once back in the village, the other NPCs were surprised as Siri and the boy received the invitation to become moderators. In light of their reaction, Aiden thought they didn't want to do this, but for them, this is something too important. Aiden said he had noticed their behavior in recent days and that the villagers obey them with great enthusiasm. Believing that the two are the most capable for this position, Arya said that this is true and that they should try, as it is not as difficult as they imagine, assuring that she would teach them how they should proceed. In light of this, they promised they would do their best, to Aiden's delight. In a region far from there, the sky is dark and full of lightning. It is possible to see the characteristic purple glow of the virus's presence. Mr. Worm made that place his refuge. He is with his eyes closed, sighing deeply, realizing that he has finally managed to gather everyone, and before him are mysterious people who also seem to be viruses. Worm asked if everyone knows the purpose of that meeting, telling everyone that the administrator has started to make his moves and that now he will look for each one of them. Worm's copies are being deleted quickly. He still has many that can be used to gather information, but he needs to take a temporary pause in his search. Otherwise, they could be deleted permanently. But this situation is far from ideal. since no one has managed to find the true whereabouts of Sir Trojan. Even so, Worm found something very interesting and wants to share it with his companions, revealing the image of Aiden. Now that he has elected 2 new moderators, Aiden said he would leave that village under their care. Siri said there is no need to worry and that they could be called at any time, guaranteeing that she would assist them whenever necessary, but these new moderators are visibly exhausted. Aiden asked Arya if their training was that tiring, but she said she had no other choice. However, she assured that they were excellent students and that they would have no problems managing that village. Moreover, while teaching, she managed to finish that protector Aiden requested. This entire region will go unnoticed by outsiders and even by moderators. Aiden is relieved, as that was exactly what he was wishing for. Now everything is prepared. Since he decided he would be the administrator of that place, he could not continue hiding. Players, moderators, and viruses, he cannot lose to any of them. Then, a large window opened for him, informing Aiden that the tutorial has finally been completed, and thanks to that, he received basic administrator skills. Having the update to version 0.2, Aiden is excited that this was just the tutorial, as now this system wants him to keep moving forward, and full of enthusiasm, he believes he will completely change that place. Starting his journey in the company of Arya, he asked where they should go now, and for situations like this, she prepared a guide for lost beginners, asking if Aiden would like to see it. It was then that a system window appeared for him. Kevin was trying to make a voice call. Aiden was surprised by that, but Arya was definitely more worried than he was. Filled with jealousy, he asked when he started a friendship with another player. Besides that, he hadn't told her anything about it. Then, Kevin says it has been a while since the last time. He wanted to know if Aiden has time to chat a bit with him. He said he is in need of new recruits, so he would like to know if Aiden is interested in joining. Guaranteeing that he wouldn't regret this choice, Aiden realized this is a good opportunity. Deciding to accept it, which made Kevin excited, claiming he would wait for him at the coordinates he would send. Ending the call, he hopes to see him very soon. Arya did not like that at all. Aiden believes he did nothing wrong, and she doesn't like seeing him asking for help from other players. Even in her frustration, they went to the City of Dawn. They immediately went to the nearest tavern, as that is the location. Aiden is the first to enter the place. Noticing that the interior of that establishment was full of players, it didn't take long for them to be found by Kevin, who was already sitting at a table with other people apparently. Aiden had arrived earlier than planned as soon as he was greeted by Kevin. He noticed Arya's presence being completely enchanted by her beauty, leaving the boy speechless, very interested. He asked if she is Aiden's companion and what her identity is, but our protagonist said she is just a friend. While Kevin builds hopes, Arya's jealousy increases significantly. She remembers that this player tried to get close to Aiden during maintenance, but she is wary of the reasons that led him to do that. Then Kevin, quite embarrassed, introduces himself to her, asking if they could be friends. Faced with her unyielding demeanor, he realized that Arya was not very interested in keeping in touch. In any case, he would introduce the boy to the rest of his companions. Those are the people with whom they will start hunting while introducing himself to them. Aiden analyzed the level of those players. Realizing they were also beginners, Kevin was finally going to present the plan to everyone. They will go after the boss that is in the fields. It is a low-level creature in this region, but not too bad, and they should be able to defeat it. Kevin will be there just for precaution, so they shouldn't be afraid at all. Now that everything has been explained, they need to start their adventure. The group is in the Trolls Canyon. The recommended level for the place is above 45. Kevin said once again that he would just be observing, as those people need to have their own battle experience. Someone mentioned that the time for the creatures to appear was almost upon them. That was when Kevin realized they were not alone in that canyon. Another group wanted to do the same thing they did. As soon as those strangers arrived, they were taken aback by the presence of the other players. In a hostile manner, they tried to assert that that hunting ground belonged to them. Aiden's new companion stated that the place belonged to no one and that they had arrived first. A heated discussion ensued. Those hostile players made a point of saying that the newcomers were weak. Faced with that, Kevin lost his patience. He couldn't believe there were still people trying to control hunting grounds, claiming that such behavior was shameful. The jerk didn't feel intimidated, suggesting they should settle it through violence, as he was eager to defeat Kevin. Growing increasingly aggressive, his group began to push Aiden's group away. Kevin realized the newcomers were in trouble, and the jerk said that if he interfered, they would start a wonderful conflict. One of the jerks tried to shove Aiden by the shoulder, saying he had already warned that trash to leave. But our protagonist had no patience for jerks, hitting that fool's cheek furiously, rearranging the structure of his face. The force of his impact was so great that it destroyed part of the canyon wall. Immediately, the players not involved in the conflict noticed what had happened, and they were trying to understand what occurred while Aiden was still brushing off the dust raised by the debris. Then he spoke to the leader of the jerks who had arrived first. Seeing they would be beaten, the jerks went on the offensive. Two of them were heading towards our protagonist. and Aiden couldn't wait to lay his hands on each of their faces. The first unsuspecting one was grabbed by his clothes, being thrown to the ground with a judo throw. But the force of the impact was so great that the ground beneath him cracked. The other fool tried to attack Aiden anyway, but was intercepted by a kick, and then by an involuntary surgery that rearranged the symmetry of his face. The jerk leader was not impressed by this, saying he should be careful about who he chooses to fight, revealing that he was level 120. He was also the manager of the Hydra Guild and was now going to teach him a lesson. Our protagonist knew he had seen that emblem somewhere, and that Hydra was one of the top 5. However, Kevin already had his sword in hand, suggesting the jerk stop as he had gone too far. If this continued, Kevin said he would not just be an observer. The jerk realized this could cause a conflict between the guilds, so Kevin would have to take responsibility for the consequences. Before the situation worsened, Aiden intervened, stating that it was fine, as he could handle the situation with the jerk. And from his personal experience, arrogant people who present themselves like the comedian did are nothing but trash in disguise. The jerk, now feeling provoked, began to channel his power. His first strike was so fast it couldn't be seen. Still, Aiden managed to dodge. The jerk believed the newbie was just a loudmouth and that he had become arrogant for defeating some trash. While continuing to provoke our protagonist, Aiden still didn't feel challenged. Using all his speed potential, he vanished, reappearing in front of that troublesome player. At that moment, he understood he would be next in line for involuntary rhinoplasties. Aiden was much stronger than he could keep up with, and using his editing ability, he doubled his stats, beautifully and violently crushing that poor player's face. He was completely defeated with a single blow. Having received lethal damage, he was sent to the nearest village, leaving his subordinates completely abandoned. Now they realized they could no longer continue being jerks, as that newbie might try to resolve the situation with them in a very unfriendly manner. For them, there was only one choice left: to flee. Like the cowards they are, Kevin didn't imagine Aiden had gotten so strong in such a short time. That shouldn't be possible. But Aiden might be hiding his true power. His new companions were impressed by that display of strength. Kevin, on the other hand, apologized for not being able to help him, stating that a conflict with that other player could have much larger repercussions. And because of that, Aiden's karma must have increased, which worried Kevin. Even so, Aiden said it was fine. Now his karma score was 17. Inside the village, the jerk player was furious, and he vented his rage by breaking walls around him. But he couldn't accept the humiliation of being defeated by a newbie. He is determined to repay what had happened, not knowing he was being watched by Arya's keen eyes, who is definitely the greatest danger in this whole work. Our protagonist continues fighting against the creatures. One of his strikes is more than enough to incapacitate the monster, which upon being defeated, caused everyone on his team to level up. They are being carried by the efforts of our protagonist, who has now realized he has grown stronger. Kevin approached him to congratulate him, stating he had never seen a new player as strong as Aiden. That's why he has a question to ask. He really wanted our protagonist to join his guild too, saying that Hydra would certainly seek revenge, and that this could happen soon and would be problematic. If he became a member of Kevin's guild, they could help him, assuring that they would protect him. Once again, an unexpected invitation arose for Aiden. Indeed, there are many benefits to joining a guild, but for that, he wanted Arya's opinion. The problem is that the girl disappeared without a word. Now Aiden doesn't know what he should do. Elsewhere near the city is one of Hydra's guild headquarters. The jerk just reported that he was completely dominated by a beginner. His superior was furious with this news. But now that they had been provoked, they needed to take revenge, authorizing the jerk to use some subordinates to ensure things could be done the right way. Finally, the jerk felt there was a path in his future to return the humiliation to our protagonist, but his thoughts were interrupted by the screams of despair from another guard. Arya had entered that building, and she definitely wasn't there to establish friendships. When asked who she was, Arya kept advancing, coldly. After defeating some subordinates, they asked what she was doing. The jerk was upset that an intruder had gotten so far, and his boss realized he was surrounded by useless people. He immediately told his men to take her down. The players charged furiously and armed, completely surrounding Arya. Even so, she remained unyielding. The jerk said she was a fool, and although she wasn't weak, it was a big mistake to come there alone. For now, she wouldn't be able to leave so easily and would witness firsthand why this guild is infamous. They would capture her to find out who sent her to that place. But these poor souls don't know the terror that awaits them. As soon as the fight begins, a great explosion occurred in that room, all caused by a single strike from Arya, which eradicated her enemies while destroying the place. Completely terrified, the jerk realized he was in trouble, and now the guild manager realized it would be necessary to engage in combat. Drawing his weapon from his inventory, he was determined to restore his honor, charging furiously at that small girl. Even in the face of that, Arya maintained her clear expression. On the lower floors, the chaos could be heard. A man remained calmly inside the library. That noise was already disturbing his studies, so he asked a subordinate what was happening, but he couldn't say. The information he had was that an intruder had entered there. The man returned to putting away the book, asking how many intruders there were, and the subordinate didn't know how to tell him since it was just one person. As soon as he learned this, the true leader of the guild became irritated, so he was led by the subordinate to the place where the intruder was. The gates opened with his arrival, and he saw one of his managers completely defeated, being held by the neck by Arya. Then he confirmed that there was indeed only one intruder. Feeling disappointed in his subordinates, shortly after that, he began to attack the girl. His attacks caused an even greater explosion, scattering debris all over the place. The jerk watching everything became increasingly frightened, for Mr. Avand is an executive of that guild and had come there to resolve this problem. But the situation is not good, as the manager has already been defeated. And now that Avand is there, surely this girl is finished. However, Avand realized that after his attack, his opponent remained unscathed, a sign that she must have a high level. Now he would take that fight seriously, warning the subordinates to get out of there or they could lose their lives. Immediately the cowards fled, while Avand made a large magic circle with his hands, firing a great power towards Arya. The girl didn't even bother to dodge it. Then a great impact occurred, destroying the wall of that room. Avand believed that with this he had finally achieved victory, but he noticed that the girl, besides remaining still, had not been harmed. Determined to end the fight, he prepared another devastating attack, hitting her hand on the ground and enlarging the size of the magic circle, which now appeared beneath Arya's feet. Almost being overshadowed by the glow of that technique, Arya remains still, and a great explosion occurs beneath her, further destroying the building they are in. Now the Hydra executive member is a bit scared because after using his best techniques, that girl remains unscathed. This should be completely impossible. And sighing in disappointment, Arya is about to make her next move. She believes she is facing the strongest player in that place, and that leaves her deeply disappointed. Then she grabbed him by the face as if he were a rag doll. Now she will share the reason that brought her to this place. They had crossed a line, so he should listen to her words very carefully and remember her face, also warning the leader of his guild. If they keep bothering her, she will cleanse this land of their presence. She said this while trying to crush the boy's head, completely subdued. He still tries to understand how he was defeated so easily. She is not a conventional player. This can only mean one thing. She must be ranked. But the beating session was not over yet. The jerk was thrown towards the ground, and the force of that impact proved to be devastating. The fight between them completely ravaged that area. A hand rises amidst the rubble. The boy does his best to crawl. He worked hard to gain all those levels, but was defeated so many times that he dropped from level 230 to 220, losing a lot in a short time. Completely outraged, he decided that he would take revenge one day, willing to do anything to avenge this humiliation. Back in the city, our protagonist is there with his new team. Kevin remains worried about him, assuring that it would be safer for him to join his guild. But Aiden made it clear that he is capable of protecting himself and appreciates Kevin's concern. Then, the player decided to respect our protagonist's stance, making it clear that if he needed help, he could call him at any moment. Bidding him farewell, he wished him well, making it very clear for him not to approach the Hydra Guild area. Aiden waved goodbye while absorbing that advice. Being surprised by Arya's arrival, who was already waiting for him, Aiden asked where the girl had gone without telling him. She asked if it wasn't a bit obvious. She was resolving the situation with those troublesome players who might come after him. Very surprised, Aiden asked if she went to the Hydra Guild, and the girl said they have a stronghold nearby, so she went there to greet them. In the city center, rumors are already spreading. It seems that the entire stronghold has been reduced to ruins. This is the news of the moment. No one knows who was responsible for that. Perhaps it was a ranked player. This could start a war between guilds. Arya believes that this way, they won't have time to worry about Aiden, and if there are problems, she will take care of it personally. Sighing deeply, Aiden realized that the girl is that kind of person who resolves things. And indeed, having problems with a hostile guild could hinder his journey, so Arya resolved that before it became something even bigger. Pleased with her actions, Aiden opened the cloud, taking a small object from there and offering it to her. His intention was to give this at another opportunity, because this is the first object he personally made of that kind, and it took a long time to reach that conclusion. What is in her hands is a necklace that was made especially for her. It has a function that allows them to communicate, as well as know each other's location. Aiden hopes she will use that to inform him of her sudden outings, because he doesn't like her disappearing without a word. Gripping that jewel tightly, Arya thanked our boy, saying that this is now her treasure. In the area where the moderators are, the meeting had ended, and it seems to have been very exhausting for them. While Mia was leaving, someone called her. That other moderator noticed she was already going back to work. Annoyed by this excess of questions, she wanted to know if the armored man had something to say, but he wants information about the main body of the virus. He said she did something really incredible, and it's unfortunate they couldn't capture it. However, there are few moderators who could face it and return alive. Mia said it's all right, and that if that's all he has to say, she would continue on her way, as she has a lot of work to execute. Only then did the moderator reveal his doubt, and wanted to know why she didn't report her discovery to the other moderators, as this should have been the first action taken by Mia, since this would have completely changed the outcome of the battle. Mia said that her information was not something concrete. Now the moderator is suspicious, thinking that she is covering her sources, realizing that perhaps she did not discover that on her own. Now, Mia ended up feeling uncomfortable, showing her claws and her power. She asked if she was being tested, and the moderator said he was just following standard protocol. Since it is Xenon's job to eliminate internal dangers, she also cannot avoid answering his questions. All of this is done for the good of the system and the administrator. Xenon made it clear that he did not hear her answer. He wants to know where she got that information, and if the answer is not satisfactory, his only choice is to continue doubting her, suggesting that perhaps she is wanting to tread the path of the traitor, Arya. As soon as he said those words, the two began to fight, destroying everything that was there. Both moderators were preparing their most powerful attacks. The armored man drew his sword, while Mia felt deeply offended by those words. The two exchanged blows in the air, spreading devastation in all directions, until Mia realized that her attack was blocked by a magical barrier. It was Procyon who was responsible for doing this, who had appeared in the midst of the conflict to prevent them from continuing to fight, and she looks at Mia, visibly disappointed. This intervention left both moderators surprised. They were not expecting Procyon to step in, and the woman said that this place is not made for fights, and that it is prohibited, telling both to put away their desire to fight immediately, even though it was brief. A great destruction was caused there. However, Xenon made it very clear that he would be watching Mia's actions, as he does not want her to become an enemy. For him, that was not just a warning. Mia remembered when she was just a child. The first person who extended a hand to her was Arya. She told Xenon to forget what happened that day. The two were being watched by Duke and Lloyd, who heard a loud noise outside. Not everyone knows what caused that conflict, but it must have been something serious to make Mia angry. Isabella said that if Zenon did something, it is because there is some problem. Since they know nothing, they decided to just observe what happened. Back in the village, life goes on normally. Arya learned that our protagonist rejected the offer to join Kevin's guild. The boy thought a lot about it, and now that he consulted his friend, he is happy with his decision, as he is not losing anything special. And if one day he needs to join a guild, there will be other invitations. After hearing all that, Arya said that joining a guild now would not be bad. That was completely unexpected from Aiden. And the girl said that the existence of a guild and belonging to one is part of the content of that world. She also personally knows the guild master, Griffo, stating that he is a very decent person. If it is Aiden's intention to join them, Arya could contact him now. But our protagonist has another idea. He would like to create his own guild, which left Arya quite surprised. Back in the village of Erzga are the villagers of our protagonist. Ciri managed to work in that region as a moderator, creating a huge house. Aiden said that she does not need to worry about materials, as everything would be allocated in the special storage of that village through the cloud. She just needs to say what she needs, thanking Ciri for everything she has done. The other residents are asking her what that is, and if they really heard Aiden's voice, but the girl immediately told the people to get back to work, as that is a request made by their own administrator. Now our protagonist believes he has solved the first problem. They are really creating a guild and that building is necessary. Arya confirmed that the minimum requirement is to have a hall for the guild. All they need to do now is wait for the building to be constructed. Aiden asked what kind of content they should seek now, and the girl holds something in mind. She wanted to know if he still remembers what was suggested in the first place. Then, they decided that it is a good possibility. The duo went to the challenge tower. Aiden is intimidated by this construction, asked what that is. His friend said it is one of the most popular places among players. Her rule is very simple. It is necessary to defeat demonic creatures on each of the floors to continue advancing. Some manage to gather many resources in this, while others set personal records. But this is important to veterans. For them, the fundamental goal is to enjoy the experience. Aiden agreed with that, but as he wishes to become the administrator of this world, he believes he should do it the right way. Arya said that tower is meant to be enjoyed regardless of the level, so it's important that their skills have synergy so he can keep advancing. She would like to take a look at what kind of class he is in before they enter the tower. Opening the system, Aiden agreed to this. Arya was immediately surprised by what she saw, as everything there is at maximum. Their skill list is completely filled. Surprised? She asked how Aiden managed this, and the boy said it has been like this from the start. Frightened? He asked if it wasn't normal, as he swore all players had these privileges, and since he had never seen anyone's stats, he didn't know that was an exception. Arya already knew he was astonishingly powerful even as a beginner, and now she confirmed that he possesses several classes with skills that can be mixed. Not even the current administrator has something like this. Once again, she is sure that Aiden is special in many ways. If he keeps progressing, he could rival the administrator soon, so the situation is perfect. She said they don't need to think about skill synergy, since he can utilize his full potential inside the tower. Inside the tower, they begin to be attacked by creatures, but Aiden is determined to overcome them all. Splitting a creature in half using an axe, he is fully aware of what happens around him. Other monsters are approaching, willing to meet the same end as their companion. After that battle, all that remains are the shattered bodies of the creatures, and our protagonist receiving several levels for defeating them. Arya is impressed that he did all this alone, combining the skills he already has. Now that she can see his level and status, it became obvious to her, Aiden truly is formidable in combat. After storing his items, our boy said that this is easier than he imagined, so Arya recommended he not let his guard down, as the difficulty will increase as they ascend the floors and perhaps he won't be able to overcome the challenges in the traditional way. Aiden asked how many floors that place has, discovering that there are 50 in total. That was when he realized he was already almost halfway, and now he is eager to finish clearing the next floors. As his friend said, the difficulty is increasing drastically and the creatures appearing in his path are much more powerful and numerous. Sometimes he was caught off guard by a boss creature that appeared suddenly, but thanks to his various skills he managed to safely get through these challenges until he finally reached the penultimate floor. The battle currently underway is fierce, and the creature wields its weapon violently. Aiden is feeling pressured. The impact of that creature's blows is devastating, and after dodging that attack, Aiden realized that this situation is indeed delicate, as the monster before him possesses incredible power. In addition to being notoriously fast, being hit by any of its attacks will be completely disastrous. So our boy resorted to a special solution. He decided to use magic since his proficiency is at maximum. Through that he managed to strengthen his body and momentum. Combining these two skills for the first time, he believes it will be enough to destroy his enemy. The strength of his feet is so great that as he moves, he destroyed the ground. Aiden managed to approach quickly, ready to strike the creature, and the force of his fists proved to be devastating. As with the impact, the monster's skull was completely rearranged. After that, the creature was sent to the ground definitively, and now its skull has a completely unnatural dent. Then the system informs that the 49th floor has been completed. Thanks to this, Aiden received a few more levels, realizing that this combination of skills is very similar to his ability to edit his own strength. All that remains now is the last floor, and looking at that staircase, Aiden is eager to know what lies ahead. Finally, he arrived at a large platform, seeing with his eyes a huge red portal, and from inside that place, a creature began to emerge. Aiden realized that this is probably his enemy. The final boss of that tower is armed with a staff and raising its hands while shouting furiously. Its magic shone intensely, causing a large magic circle to be conjured everywhere. Its illumination is so intense and deep that it could be seen from afar. That is a cursed field. The effect of all abilities has been diminished and Aiden will receive constant damage over time. In addition to having his stats halved, Aiden realized that this battle is going to be a bit more complicated. But he is not a conventional player and has resistance to this type of negative effect, completely nullifying the curses that were placed on his body. The creature realized that what it had conjured was completely nullified. The main ability of that enemy does not work on our protagonist, and after picking up a sword that would make the berserker mangaka proud, Aiden wants to finish that battle quickly. The monster in front of him advances furiously, conjuring an attack with its staff, but Aiden promptly reacts using the blade of the sword, making several cuts preventing the thorns from reaching him. Determined to keep fighting, the creature uses magic once again, sending huge boulders in the direction of the boy, who was now going to defend himself using magic as well, making several balls of light appear in the air. They were immediately sent towards the boulders, destroying all of them as soon as they met. Now that the greater danger has been nullified, Aiden advances across the battlefield and is getting closer to that creature, wielding a sword that is at least 3 times his size. A completely clean and well-executed strike was made. The poor creature was promoted to an organic puzzle, and after being defeated, its body began to disappear, releasing a great beam of light on that platform. Finally, the system congratulated Aiden as the challenge tower was completed, and that is the new personal record for our boy. Quite exhausted, Aiden realized that this is the end of this little challenge, and while everything was cracking there, he noticed that it was better than he was expecting. However, he still doesn't know how to get out of that tower. It was at that moment that Aiden realized that what had started to crack is actually a portal, and it must be the exit, but its appearance is too strange to be something like that. While he was still thinking about it, Arya approached him to congratulate him, as she didn't imagine he would reach the end in just one attempt, revealing that it is almost impossible to do this the first time, and ignoring what she had said, Aiden told the girl she arrived at a good time, pointing at the portal. He asked what that was, and Arya looked equally confused. Our boy would like to know where it leads. However, Arya was scared, as she couldn't see anything at all. This information also surprised Aiden, and he began to think that something might be wrong, noticing that the tips of his fingers started to disappear, and the same was happening to his whole body. As Aiden panicked, Arya shouted for him to move away, seeing our boy disappear before her eyes. Once again, he was taken to that dimension made of data, not knowing what is happening, thinking that the administrator or a moderator might be involved. His eyes saw something surprising. He was seeing the tower from another dimension, and that must be the other players who are trying to defeat it now. Aiden has a privileged view of that entire system until his body is materialized in another place, still very confused. He can't tell where he is, but he noticed that blue petals were flying through the air and that characteristic illumination was pointing in a direction for some reason that made him remember Sirius. And after taking a few steps, he was heading towards a pair of closed doors that led to the beta version in front of it. He realized it was version 0.5. Then, a system screen appeared before his eyes, informing Aiden of a new task, those who were forgotten. The reward for this is another level as an administrator, as well as a new command. Aiden was not expecting to receive a task. However, it has been a while since the last one, and he realized that his journey is still ongoing. His thoughts were interrupted by Arya's worried voice, asking where he is. This is possible because of the artifact he made especially for her in the traditional way. She couldn't get in touch, and the pendant proved to be very useful on this occasion. She left the tower to look for him, and realized that there was a problem. She had never seen anything like that before. She must be able to reach him somehow, but according to the artifact, he is at an absurd distance, and in the center of the earth. In light of this, she was going to look for a way to reach him, but Aiden said that it wasn't necessary, leaving Arya quite confused, revealing to her that he had found something that only he can do. If the situation worsens too much, he can leave there using the cloud, so he asked Arya not to worry. She just needs to wait a little, and if something serious happens, he will get in touch. In light of this, Arya asked him to be cautious. Now, determined, he placed his hands on that door, forcing his way inside. Then, his eyes beheld something impressive. In that huge corridor, there were several creatures that seemed to be asleep. They were all the demonic monsters that appeared in the challenge tower. Aiden began to wonder why they were there and why they remained motionless, until he heard a voice saying they were like that because they hadn't been updated. Startled, he asked who had said that. Then, a figure that looked like a robot from the future appeared before him, and that construct asked how Aiden managed to get inside. But our boy was wondering how a guard could talk. The robot said that only the administrator should have access to this place. This is a system guard, and its data is unknown. After this brief interaction between them, the creatures began to move. They seemed to have been awakened by the system guard. The robot said it could sense the power the administrator possesses in the boy, but the identity is wrong. Anyone who is not the administrator is considered an intruder in that space. Now the creatures advance toward him in a hostile manner, but our boy uses the sword to defend himself, showing great skill with the instrument. He cuts those monsters that should be sleeping, realizing that his battle there could be prolonged. Moreover, he understood that conventional weapons are not very efficient. In light of this, Aiden will resort to the one capable of crushing everything, his little hammer. Armed with the real weapon, Aiden is ready to delete all that data. The creatures leap at him again, unaware that our protagonist is the true monster of this chamber. His hammer moves furiously through the air, eradicating everything it touches. The monsters were completely subdued this time. For every time the little hammer is stimulated, it becomes a great flaming sword. A message appeared saying that the system had been connected. The light in what would be the robot's head began to shine. It seems everything is functioning properly, and a person in front of him asked if the robot could hear him. It seems there is no error, and now the robot will manage that tower for him. Several players are waiting for updates, so he would leave all that in the robot's hands. A long time passed, and his armor is worn. The robot still believes it is the guardian of that place, and it will do so until the update comes, for that is its true mission. Increasing its power even more, it prepares to defeat our protagonist in the company of those creatures, channeling several energy balls in his direction, which were fired as soon as they were ready. Aiden watches their approach with confidence, managing to dodge all those attacks, but having gotten close to the robot, He was surrounded by the creatures, a problem he would easily solve with the sword in his hands. That obliterated all who stood in his way. The robot, seeing that, was left speechless. It realized that thanks to the dust raised, our protagonist was hiding, but that would not be enough to protect him, and the Guardian managed to hit our boy hidden by the dust, but he used the sword to defend himself. Aiden began to feel the ground beneath his feet giving way. That caused him a bad feeling. He immediately left that position just to see a gigantic creature emerging beneath him. The beast roared furiously, and now it was trying to capture Aiden with its jaws. Then, our protagonist used the sword once more, ending that creature's life prematurely. Its inert body fell to the ground like a great building. Unfortunately, this battle is taking a great toll on Aiden's energy. He is already quite exhausted, and the sword seems to consume much of his stamina. Even though his attack is effective, he cannot do this forever. He realized that defeating that robot is an immediate necessity. On the other hand, the Guardian understood that that artifact is dangerous and does not have enough power to subjugate him. Determined to preserve its own integrity, it began to build a great wall, for it could not be reached by that blade in any way. In parallel to this, it made more shots in Aiden's direction, who this time needed to use another strategy to defend himself. Editing his own stats, he tripled his strength. A great explosion occurred due to those energy projectiles, but Aiden managed to dodge them all, and jumping between the objects in that place, he was now approaching the Guardian, while everything was being destroyed in his path. Now Aiden is with the sword in hand, ready to strike his enemy. At the same time he executes his cut, the Guardian invokes a barrier. The force of the two collides, but the blade of the sword is superior to the resistance of that shield, which began to shatter into thousands of pieces. The robot observes all of this incredulously. Its perfect barrier has been overcome, and its robotic body, brutally pierced. Now the robot has become completely obsolete. What remained of it fell to the ground. What was once a Guardian is now nothing but scrap in that dimension. Aiden begins to approach his enemy and coldly observes that metal carcass, which now seems to possess no activity at all. That Guardian was created to preserve the system and operated accordingly. There was no room for free will. It merely followed its main directive, for that was inevitable. In the midst of the darkness of its data, red screens appeared. They began to multiply. The system was being rebuilt, and finally, the update happened. When the robot regained sight, it found Arya and Aiden. The girl told our protagonist that the creature opened its eyes. Now the Guardian had awakened. Aiden said, "This is very good." Moreover, Arya is also surprised that a system guard has its own consciousness. Trying to understand what had happened, the Guardian said it had never seen that before. Now, it is endowed with a completely human body. This is the update it underwent. After the battle, Aiden couldn't believe it, for among the guards, that one seemed very different, and inside its metal armor was a small artifact. Aiden approached to see what it was, and was impressed by it. That small orb glowed intensely. Soon after, he began to hear Arya's voice calling him. She did this because she was getting very worried, so Aiden said she called it a good time, immediately asking her to go to the city, as he would meet her soon. Arya wanted to know what it was about, and our boy said it was a bit of a long story, but he had something to ask her, only it was necessary to show her first. Opening the cloud in that dimension, he said they would see each other soon. Inside the tavern, they are gathered. Arya wants to know how he got that orb, as it is the core of an elevated Guardian. Our boy didn't know there was a wide variety of this type of Guardian, and Arya said they are much stronger than normal guards, for they work directly for the administrator and are not very numerous. Some are more powerful than the moderators themselves. Aiden was impressed by these facts and didn't know how that Guardian had been neglected. Arya presumed he could no longer be updated, and there must be other Guardians in the same situation. This world is frozen, and it's not just the Guardians going through this. Many things are stagnating and being forgotten. None of this will be resolved until the administrator is replaced. Finally, Aiden understood why he had received such a task. In light of this, his task is simple. His role is to make this frozen world move again. And now with the Guardian's core in hand, he said he would update everything. Immediately using his editing ability, he was sent to that data dimension once again. As the original body had been destroyed, he needed to create something new. Aiden is thinking about the possibilities. The first step is to connect that core to himself, and he hopes to get some kind of response from it. Several system screens appeared saying a new unit was detected. Around that core, a body was constructed. This is a sign that the update is happening. Even Aiden was surprised by what he was seeing, and as the body formed, another system screen appeared. Aiden needs to choose a name for this Guardian. He used to be just an NPC, and now he is becoming the master of an elevated guard. It's something interesting to note. From now on, that creature will have a name, and he will be called Theodoro. The system registered that name. Aiden began to remember when he met Arya. Now that he has a human body, our boy asked how he is feeling after the update. Theodoro looks at him, still quite intrigued, realizing that Aiden was responsible for updating him. This information is confirmed by our protagonist. This made Theodoro bow before him, thanking him for what had happened. Aiden was able to fulfill his long-awaited wish, promising that from that day forward, he would serve him as if he were his administrator. No matter what happens, in another region, the viruses are trying to create a large portal, but they are being eradicated by an external force, leaving the viruses completely distraught, for a monster had appeared in the peaceful place where they are hiding. It is the administrator who is there, and he has already managed to eliminate several copies of the viruses. The creatures understood that he is determined to end everything once and for all. If he stayed there, he could end up being deleted too. That virus was caught off guard by the presence of the administrator. Looking back, he tried to understand how it happened so quickly, but it was already too late. The virus was permanently deleted. The administrator had begun his hunt, and now he realized something. There is still a powerful hidden enemy in that region. The enormous virus emerged from the ground, revealing its colossal size. It said it had been eagerly waiting for this moment, sending several of its tentacles towards the administrator. But that attack was completely blocked. The administrator's body was also capable of disappearing. Furious, the virus announced it would reach him, firing a powerful laser burst where the administrator's body was. At first, it seemed he was turned to dust, and a great wave of devastation was caused in that region. The shockwave caused was being condensed somehow until it caused a massive explosion. The virus closely observed the result of its actions and soon found itself surprised. As a woman had appeared to protect the administrator with a barrier, Procyon had joined the battle as well. While the virus screamed in rage, the woman asked if the administrator was okay. Materializing a power in one of her hands, she said he didn't have to do it alone, and that power had transformed into a divine spear. Procyon warned that she would take care of the situation. Her weapon is Procyon's judgment, a unique item of hers. However, holding her by the shoulder, the administrator said it was all right, as he would resolve this situation quickly. Even though he was capable of that, Procyon remained worried. Approaching the virus, the administrator said they have no end, and he had spent a long time searching for the Trojan, while others multiplied. Finally, the administrator decided to remove his mask, revealing that one of his eyes is integrated into the system. For him, this whole situation is very tiring. He then used one of his abilities, the blocking ability, and from the administrator's body a great power was emanated, completely enveloping the region where the virus was. The creature did not know what this meant, much less what that dark space was. It imagined it was a way to prevent it from escaping. Still pondering what this could be, the virus saw its entire body being consumed by a luminous energy and realized that he and his copies would be completely deleted at this rate. To prevent this from happening, he tried to divide all his parts so that some could escape. This was his priority now, and the administrator observed that futile attempt. Concentrating the energy in one of his hands, he said that all these actions are empty of meaning, since the virus would be deleted along with that entire space. As if endowed with gravity, that sphere of energy created by the administrator began to attract all the copies of the virus, which was gradually being gathered in the administrator's hands until the entire infection was completely contained, becoming a small core within the sphere that the administrator had produced. Then he used the permanent deletion, completely destroying the core that was in his hand. The result of his actions sent information within the sea of data to the virus's main body. Worm is in his refuge, peacefully, and the wave of data is heading towards him. As soon as it made contact with his body, he realized what had happened to his copies, and the administrator's actions seemed to have caused damage to his physical body. He immediately became furious about this, as all his copies were deleted at once, which would take a long time to recover. Even so, Worm remains determined to continue his war against the administrator who had finally won that battle. Returning his characteristic mask to his face, Procyon asks if he is okay. We are also revealed that his name is Aster. Without answering the girl, the administrator says they need to return, and she watches with regret his behavior. Back in his refuge, the administrator sits sighing deeply after all those actions. For a brief moment he closed his eyes as if he wanted to rest, but he heard an alert sound coming from the system in front of him. He had received a message from Zenon, which seems to be confidential. Immediately he opened the content of it and came across the image of Mia. The administrator was informed that she is behaving suspiciously and that she possibly must have met with Arya. For him, all of this is within his expectations, as Mia has always been a loyal follower of Arya. The administrator remembers her very well, realizing that perhaps she does not intend to return. While still reading this information, he came across another screen. Zenon is talking about Mia's actions. which continue to be strange, and he discovered that she has been receiving help from someone outside. Showing a photo of the protagonist, the administrator remembers Aiden as he deleted him with his own hands. It seems that this was not effective, and the boy now has administrative authority over the system. He might be a new virus. With more information about this, he realized that it would be necessary to do something about it. Using his research skills, he specifically searched for Aiden, but his access was denied. As soon as he saw this error message, the administrator became frightened. It is unusual for there to be information that even he cannot access. Then, he encountered red numbers in the system, noticing that there were some people with higher priority than his. The administrator said he had been searching for a long time and did not think he would find him this way, but he was even more surprised to realize that everything was there. That is the Trojan he is looking for. He immediately called for Procyon, saying he needed something only she could do, and this should be done discreetly. Otherwise, his target could hide if anything was noticed. Showing an image of Aiden, he said they needed to locate him immediately. Procyon assured him that she would put her life at risk to fulfill this order. Teodoro told Aiden that he is willing to take any order as he would execute them immediately. Our boy feels a bit uncomfortable with such devotion. He understands Teodoro's dedication, but has nothing in mind right now. Looking at Arya, he asked if all elevated guardians are like this, and she said these are beings that exist only to serve the administrator. Moreover, Teodoro has been neglected for a long time. He must have a lot of accumulated energy. Aiden remembered that there were demonic creatures in his company, and did not understand why they were in that place, being shocked by the information he received from Arya that they are also part of the system. One of the functions of guardians like Teodoro is to allocate these creatures made by the system, and those that were with Teodoro also could not be updated. Arya asked if the danger these creatures pose to NPCs is all based on lies, and Arya answered positively, since the creatures are just a mechanism to strengthen the players. The girl asked if Aiden really thinks that this type of creature truly represents a danger to them, which made Aiden think. Even if they are attacked by them, death never really happens, as they are protected by the system. The only thing that can end them is the infection caused by the virus, or the act of being deleted. Having realized that extremely obvious truth, Aiden was genuinely shocked, remembering that the creatures never invaded the village, and never leave the designated area for them, understanding that they had been under the system's restrictions all this time. While he was thinking, Arya urged him, as they were almost arriving at the village, and as soon as they saw that city, they realized it had changed quite a bit, a sign that the villagers are working hard. The children from the beginning of the work who were rescued by our boy are bothering a cute little creature, so our protagonist asked how they have been, and the children were very happy to recognize Aiden, saying they missed him a lot. Our boy wants to know if they know where Siri and Jake are, finding out through those children that they went to visit the nearest dungeon. Inside the city, the moderators are in an uproar. Jake and Siri learned of Aiden's arrival. He was already waiting for his moderators, stating that he is just passing through the village, and analyzing them, he noticed that the effects of increasing experience are working very well. They continue to develop quickly. However, they cannot hide their surprise about this stranger accompanying Aiden. Teodoro soon recognized the moderators and said it is a pleasure to meet them, saying he is the new servant of the administrator Aiden, the elevated guard Teodoro, saying they could feel free by his side. Siri was impressed by this title. She had already heard stories about these guardians from Sirius. Then Aiden asked how things have been in the village. Jake asked Siri if they should tell him everything. It seems the moderators are a bit nervous, and the girl said she would tell the truth. Some players visited that place. Aiden was shocked by this, but the girl confirmed that there was no problem at all. All they did was trade some items. The players also completed some tasks that the villagers had requested, staying in the city for about a day, and since they did not know that this could happen frequently, they are not prepared to receive players, but Aiden is relieved. Looking at Arya, he asked how this is possible. She had already imagined something like this for the future. All she did was hide the village from the map. However, getting there on foot is a completely different problem. They do not have enough authority to restrict anyone's access. Aiden realized that preventing players' entry is impossible now, so they must prepare for the arrival of more people, asking his moderators to be informed if anything happens. Teodoro asked our protagonist once again to give him an order, as he wishes to help too. Aiden realized that this is the ideal time. He now has a task for Teodoro. Standing up from the table, he said it's time to test his hypothesis, revealing to Arya that he has obtained a new command. Outside, they approach what seems to be a tower. The villagers are gathered there to see what Aiden will do. That task was a surprise even for him, and for completing it, Aiden's administrator authority rose to level 5, gaining the ability to copy, a completely new function for him. Aiden asked his friend if she remembers what she had told him, as he needs to be able to create his own content, Keeping this in mind, he said he would show her something completely new. And the tower of that village began to shine intensely. Aiden returned to the data dimension. He is trying to remember that feeling of when he saw the tower from the outside and the players climbing its floors. From him, a great chain of data began to emerge. The copying ability was being utilized, bringing forth before him a huge tower that is not just a simple copy. It needs to be new and improved. His project began to take shape. The system notified that new content was being updated. Now it needs to be named. So Aiden was thinking of possible names, coming to the conclusion that this would be the Tower of Challenges. Everyone observes what Aiden is doing. His moderators are startled by the intensity of that light, saying that it truly is incredible. Arya is equally surprised, as before them a great tower had appeared. It can now be seen throughout that region. Breathless, Aiden realized he had completed his work, and now he has a request to make to Theodoro. It will be up to him to manage that entire tower, as well as protect all the residents of that village. Grateful, Theodoro asked Aiden to leave this in his charge, as he would not disappoint him in any way. Visibly exhausted, Aiden felt happy hearing those words, collapsing from fatigue right after. But before he could hit the ground, Arya caught him, responding to our protagonist that he had done something grand, and quite moved. She told an unconscious Aiden that this is an excellent job. Inside the city, some players are discussing, as it seems one of them is a veteran deceiver, but the guy insists he is telling the truth. In that hidden village, there are several rare items. He thought it might be some event, but it seems that within that village, those items are just common. They need to take advantage of this opportunity before the place becomes popular. Another player said that this is strange, as he had passed through that village before and never noticed anything exceptional, but the players stopped visiting it after their limits were blocked by the administrator. The other guy said, that doesn't matter, as this is their chance to make some kind of profit. Hidden. There was another person who overheard all this gossip, and for those who don't remember, this is the despicable player who humiliated our protagonist, who now in possession of this information wants to gather resources in Aiden's village. He told his companion that they should abandon this tiring work. However, the masked man said they are in a complicated situation. No one hires them, and they need to keep working. But the jerk can smell money from a distance. On the path leading to our protagonist's village are those other players, and one of them noticed that the city does not appear on the map, yet they managed to reach it easily. It must be an unknown place. Then they realized there was something unconventional there, a huge tower that definitely wasn't in that village. It seems very similar to another tower that exists in this world, so the player thought it might be an update, but checking the system he noticed there was no announcement of any kind of exclusive content. His companions ran towards the city as they are eager to see it, leaving that other player behind, who is still suspicious of all this. As he advanced towards the city, he thought he might be confused with his memories. Now these three players are inside the village. At first, there is nothing special about that place. When the other guy confessed he thought the same thing when he was there for the first time getting to know the city, they decided to go to the nearest blacksmith. The NPCs work hard inside, and since they were tired, they decided to take a little time to rest. Their lives had changed after Aiden, who taught them various techniques, in addition to providing very rare materials. Thanks to this, even the everyday weapons of those villagers are of extreme quality. The players, upon entering that place, were amazed by the variety of those items. The NPCs quickly recognized the visitors. Then they asked, what was the reason that brought them there? One of the players acknowledged that the quality of this equipment is excellent and would like to buy some, but can't see a price on anything. His doubt is whether that is really for sale. The NPCs revealed that they don't need money but could trade that for tasks, promising the player an item of his choice. As they could see, nothing is lacking in that village, except for one single thing. Even though food is abundant, it's always nice to receive a different meal, and it's hard to find good ingredients around there. The players were surprised to realize that they only wanted to trade those rare items for a bit of food. However, the player noticed that no notification appeared in his system. Ignoring that signal, he decided he would grab his rations soon, and outside the village, other players are arriving. It's that jerk and his companion, who wish to monopolize the place, showing to be truly arrogant. He forces his way into one of the houses, leaving those inside worried. The player said that the house looks normal and that there's nothing special there. Still, he begins to vandalize the items and loot its interior. The resident politely asked them to leave, and completely enraged, the player was going to show the NPC that he shouldn't treat him that way, as they need to know their place within the system. As he tried to hit him, his blow was stopped by a barrier, leaving the player confused about what had happened. Siri appeared there, asking what he was doing. Completely furious, she asked if the player wanted to end his sad life in a painfully absurd way. After that great effort, Aiden slowly wakes up again, then he gets up startled, realizing that he had lost consciousness. This was certainly a result of using too much of his power. Using commands is exhausting. Arya, who had been waiting for him, is relieved that he woke up soon. Aiden asked if she stayed there the whole time and she assured him she did, as Aiden needs to understand that he is an important figure in that place. While getting dressed, he asked how long he had been like that, and the girl replied that he needed to sleep an entire day. He was certainly very fatigued. Going outside, he found several villagers who were waiting for him to wake up. Jake said that everyone was worried about his health. Then a woman tried to force her way through the crowd, as she had something to say to Aiden. Breathless, she reached him and said that some players had appeared there, and that they are now causing problems. As soon as he heard this, Aiden jumped towards the sky as if he were Neo at the end of the Matrix movie. He was flying towards the problem, and with his eyes, he managed to find the exact location. Immediately, he arrived at the house where the conflict was ongoing. But seeing that the wall had been broken and people were being thrown outside, he realized he had arrived too late. Those problematic players were already being beaten as if they owed money to a loan shark. The one responsible for this beating session is Siri. The players can't understand how an NPC became so powerful. Only then did Siri notice Aiden's arrival. She interrupted the beating session because she was happy that he woke up healthy. It was at that moment that the jerk player recognized our protagonist, Siri, seeing the mocking smile of our boy, asked if they knew each other. And now Aiden knows exactly what had happened, as those players had come there to try to make some profit. As seen, they didn't learn their lesson after losing all the money they had. This left the jerk furious, determined to take revenge on our protagonist. He took something from his inventory, charging at Aiden with a sword, but all he managed to get from that was a free rhinoplasty, being thrown away brutally. Jake appeared there quite enraged, saying that they shouldn't approach Aiden that way, as he is not someone who can be threatened without consequences. Humiliated, the player didn't understand what was happening. Even being a player chosen by the system, those people are terrifying. Aiden assumes they are in this situation because of what they did, but life would be different if those upgrades to their equipment had worked. He is sure that the lives of those players must not have been easy, so he would upgrade some equipment for them without charging for it. Seeing the glow emanating from the hammer, the players almost wet their pants, but Aiden promised he would do it the right way, and that this time he wouldn't mess up. Unfortunately, even though he tried diligently, the upgrade failed and the equipment was destroyed. Now the jerks flee the village wearing only their pajamas, while they run desperately. They say they would return one day, and Aiden asked Siri to put those people's names on the blacklist, for they should not return to that city. As long as he is the administrator, he will not allow players to do as they please. They do not need to sacrifice themselves for those people in their lives again. Now they need to prepare, for judging by the current situation, more players must be coming. Hiding the village is impossible. Syria is worried, as it is only a matter of time before the moderators discover what is in that place. Arya agrees with this, and they do not know how the moderators will react to that situation. After being thoughtful, Aiden came to a conclusion, deciding that they should gather players there. Jake believes that trying to hide their existence is the best solution, but our protagonist knows that this is inevitable. The truth is that the content of that place helps the players and eventually will become necessary. If they make this happen soon, whether the moderators or the administrator, they will not be able to erase them, but they need to prepare before people start gathering there, which is why he asked everyone to hold hands. This is something he had thought about with Arya, and he will do now that they are all together. Closing his eyes, he began to gather his energy, and a great flash of light formed around them. Aiden took his companions to that data dimension. They are surprised by what they are seeing. Aiden said that this space is within the system, and that it is all right. They can be at ease. Now he would begin what he wanted to do, sharing his power with his moderators. The synchronization was completed, and the administrative authority was shared. They can also use the cloud. This tool will help them manage the city, for in the cloud are the items that he and Arya managed to gather, which can also be used by their moderators. Aiden said he would provide all the necessary support for that village. The system notified that the update was completed. Now Aiden believes he can continue with his plans. Since the emergence of the tower, a few days had passed, and that place really became popular among the players. Aiden noticed that his village is becoming more and more frequented, a sign that the tower is doing very well. Arya said that the player's impression is also very positive, and our boy realized he has a long way to go. Unfortunately, bad players have also appeared, which raised Aiden's karma a bit. Even so, Theodoro's work is impressive. It is a relief to have him around, and the Guardian felt honored to receive those words, saying he is just doing his job. The tower, thanks to this, continues to be very well managed. It also has unprecedented functions for the players. It has an exclusive survival mode, as well as puzzle solving and challenges, in addition to delivering bonus rewards to the players, which made that place highly rated among them. Aiden realized they must continue this work, also ensuring that if Theodoro needed help, he just had to reach out. However, our protagonist wishes to gather an even larger number of players. If he can encourage them, they will surely return naturally. And the most important thing of all is the experience. Using his skills, he created an event where experience is doubled. Immediately the players were alerted about this. While exploring the challenge tower, they will receive twice the experience and rewards. They are all impressed with this news, as there has never been anything like it in all of history. Moreover, if they do tasks for the villagers of that village, they can receive blessings. Immediately the news began to spread among players who did not yet know that region. Aiden realized that this strategy could be very efficient. However, Arya is apprehensive about that excess attention. She needs to expedite her plans. The moderators will soon notice that village. In all the cities where there are players, the news is proliferating. They are all being informed about the city of Erdzga and its exclusive events. Even though nothing has been announced, they are going there to find out what it is about. And a woman in particular hears this conversation. She closely observes the movement of the players. It is Procyon, who continues to work for the administrator. In the headquarters building of the Hydra Guild, some are gathered. The leaders are there to give their reports, and at first, everything seems to be going well. However, one of them asked why they have not heard anything about downtown yet. According to rumors, the branch of that region was reduced to ashes, and the manager was defeated to the point of losing some levels. Then, their leader called for Avand. For it is time for him to start explaining himself. The guild leader hopes there will be a good explanation for this. His name is Douglas, and he is level 400. Avant apologized for what happened, saying that operations were going smoothly, but the emergence of a ranked match changed all that. To confirm future suspicions, he took a picture of that girl, showing Douglas who she is. Douglas realized that her appearance is somewhat familiar, especially that blue hair. Avant assured that he was telling the truth, and it seems he received an urgent call. Douglas asked what happened, and the young man apologized, but managed to get new information. It seems that new content has just been discovered. At first, they find it hard to believe, as there was no official announcement. That's when Yvonne said that a new tower seems to have been created, and a major experience event is currently underway. Everything indicates that the region is also not controlled by any guild. Douglas is becoming increasingly suspicious, especially since there has been no announcement, yet players are going there. The profit is unimaginable. He said that before the other guilds make their moves, they need to take control of that region, ordering all elite guild members to be mobilized. Thus, their leaders set out to put the plan into action. Douglas is thinking that updates stopped a long time ago, and it seems they have finally started happening again, and he is wondering what could have motivated that, until a dark presence appeared behind him, saying that this is very interesting. Douglas said that this person scared him, and thought he had already told her not to appear like that. The masked man, with 4 eyes on his face behind him, is named Regan, and he is a virus. The virus said he doesn't care about the conditions of this human, who he finds quite strange. However, he wants to know more about this new update. Douglas said he is still not sure, as there is no official announcement, so they are investigating the veracity of this. Knowing the current administrator, the virus knows he shouldn't be able to create new content. There is only one person capable of that, and he seems to have understood what happened. It must be the person that Worm's looking for, as he told everyone he has administrative authority, so he thought about capturing him before Worm, sending Douglas to dispatch special minions to capture someone in that place. But the man said that doesn't make sense, as what he asked to be sent to the village is still in the experimental phase. If the moderators find out, they will have problems. However, the virus assured him that he shouldn't worry, as the moderators have bigger problems. Now he should put the products of his collaboration on the battlefield, as he is sure they will do an excellent job. Again, all the moderators gathered, and someone stood up excitedly, banging their hands on the table. It was Duke, and he didn't understand what Mia had just said, but she reinforced her words. From that day forward, she would be stepping down from her role as a moderator, leaving her colleagues surprised. Duke thought something was wrong, as that was too sudden. However, Mia said his reaction is unnecessary, as this is something she has been thinking about for a long time. There was a reason she became a moderator. She wanted to be useful in some way to her big sister Arya, the only person who accepted her unconditionally, even after being abandoned by everyone. She had decided to follow her wherever she went, as she is the only person she can fully trust, and was planning to wait for her return, but now that is no longer necessary. Duke seems not to know Arya and asked who she is. It was then that Xenon said the rest of the colleagues do not know her. The only ones who know about her are Mia and the moderators as old as she is. Now that she gave her explanation, Mia warned that she would be leaving, but would leave her unique weapon in that place. Before she could leave, Xenon asked her to stop, asking if Mia really believes she will leave like this. After saying those words, challengingly, she asked what will happen if she decides to leave anyway, making it clear that he has no reason to stop her. Xenon said that the situation could be this, but due to an order from the administrator he cannot let her leave, so he asked if she is going after Arya. Xenon said that Mia seems to have forgotten the forbidden sin that Arya committed, stepping into a forbidden domain, putting the administrator's life at risk. Since that incident, he has never been the same, so she should know about this too. Mia was an excellent moderator for a long time, and he doesn't want to do this to such an old comrade. However, the administrator's orders are absolute. Xenon asked her not to make the wrong choice. Furious, Mia realized that he hadn't changed at all, then he challenged her to try to stop her if he could. Immediately, the two began exchanging slaps, while they are observed by the other moderators who are worried, wondering where Procyon is. Duke asked what Selena would do, but she doesn't want to get involved in this conflict, as with the strength she possesses, she would only get in the way of others. She decided that she would remain uninvolved. As soon as Duke stepped away from her, Selena began to smile, showing that she must have some kind of hidden intention. The battle between the moderators quickly escalates. Xenon's power is truly impressive. His strikes can easily destroy the landscape, and one of them almost hit Mia's face. Now the girl finds herself in a position to retaliate, causing one of her fireballs to explode intensely. But Xenon managed to escape that. However, he watches the glow of the fire increase more and more, while Mia produces other energy spheres, sending all of them in the direction of her opponent. Xenon manages to cut the fireballs using his sword, but that doesn't stop Mia from continuing to attack. It was then that he realized that several other fire spheres were rapidly approaching, and a large explosion occurred shortly after. All of this while the other moderators watch. Duke is very scared and doesn't know what to do. It's possible that their intervention could pose a life-threatening risk given the intensity of the situation. Lloyd realized that this couldn't continue, and Isabel suggested they help Xenon. Duke watches helplessly as the other two enter the battlefield. Lloyd ordered Mia to stop, attacking the girl immediately, who managed to defend herself. She used her flame-imbued hand to block that sword, and looking at Lloyd, she asked if he was going to get involved too, but he said it was as Xenon had said. They need to follow the administrator's orders. Stepping into the forbidden domain is a severe crime. It could have caused uncontrollable chaos. Completely outraged, Mia countered the attack while telling Lloyd to shut up, and she took advantage of that opening to concentrate her power in her other hand, striking Lloyd's stomach devastatingly. That single blow was enough to make him regret getting involved in this. Lloyd, after breaking several stones with his own body, tries to recover. Mia approaches, recommending that he not speak about it as if he knew everything. Since none of the other moderators know the true reasons behind Arya, she did all of this for the administrator. Mia said that if they want to stop her this time, they better be prepared because she won't hold back anymore. Lloyd brings his hand to his stomach, feeling an intense urge to shit. He realized firsthand that Mia's power is truly formidable. A single blow almost turned him inside out. Lloyd has no idea how they will be able to restrain her. Moreover, he can't use the system commands as they don't work against other moderators. While Mia is surrounded by her flames, Isabel tries to approach, coming from the girl's blind spot, who was already aware of this approach. Isabel strikes, which is defended by Mia, as she managed to perceive the approach before the attack happened, sending her flames towards the other moderator, causing a large explosion. Isabel barely escaped that and realized that her task would not be easy. As the moderators join forces to fight against Mia, Duke watches, terrified, everything that happens. He is remembering Mia and realized that she is completely different from her usual self. Moreover, there is a significant power difference among those moderators. Even injured, Lloyd approached Isabel, asking if she was able to move. The woman, responding to him, recommended that he take care of his own health. However, she is not sure if they will be able to defeat Mia even if they are uniting. Lloyd realized that this raw power is intimidating and paralyzing. Isabel realized that it has been a long time since she last felt this way. Then she disappeared before them, trying to surprise Mia from behind once again. Lloyd shouted desperately that they need to attack in a coordinated manner, but Isabel doesn't care about that. She wants to feel the thrill of being beaten, as she knows that Mia is the strongest moderator and has always wanted to fight her. Hearing those words, Mia felt flattered, as another person deserves that title, and it is Arya, not her. After repelling Isabel, she noticed an intense glow approaching. It was Lloyd, who apparently didn't learn his lesson. He executed a fierce attack against Mia. Shortly after that powerful blow, he unleashed a large volume of attacks, but none of them were able to suppress Mia's power. In light of this, he decided to concentrate his power into a definitive attack, bringing his blade dangerously close to Mia's neck. She barely managed to dodge the attack that came from Isabel next. Now the two are attacking in a coordinated manner. Mia found herself cornered by the two moderators, and the destruction increases in that region. Lloyd is preparing to further increase his power, and loaded, he pointed his sword at Mia, firing a blast of powerful energy at her. After that, all that remained on the battlefield was dust rising in the air. Breathless, Lloyd hopes this worked. Isabel advised him not to be careless, for Mia would not be defeated so easily. It was then they saw a red glow in the midst of the dust. Desperate, Isabel looked at Lloyd, ordering him to dodge that, but the attack was already approaching them at great speed. Fireballs began to explode in that place, and by a hair's breadth, the two moderators were not obliterated. Mia is becoming increasingly irritated with the duration of this battle. The other moderators understood they are not enough. This time, she created a special fireball in her hands. Mia had increased her power in a colossal way, as if it were Frieza's final attack against Namek. Isabel and Lloyd watched in horror as Mia was in control of that fireball, sending the massive power towards her former colleagues. They had already accepted their early end, but someone appeared to save the day. Zenon stepped in front of that attack, drawing his sword to prevent Mia from doing that. As he cut through that power, something grand happened. The fireball was sliced as if it were a ripe orange. Thanks to this move, he managed to avert the worst, and Mia realized that the battle would become a bit more complicated. As Zenon is now engaged in that conflict, he recognized that the girl had become a bit stronger. Her current level doesn't even compare to when she became a moderator, and as his mask disintegrated, Zenon said that things are clear now. Mia was surprised by what she began to see. For now, Zenon would fight seriously against her. The moderator said that the power he possesses was not meant to be used this way. However, he has no other choice. Since the administrator's order is completely absolute, Zenon's level suddenly increased by 50 points. Elsewhere, a creature rises furiously, but it was brutally struck in the abdomen. This was caused by Aiden's attack, who watches with excitement what his power is capable of doing. Defeating that creature, he gained another level and realized that his progress continues happening very satisfactorily. He is already at level 250. That is a specific area where content can be edited instantly. So, in contact with Theodoro, he requested that more powerful creatures be sent, but the Guardian is worried about Aiden, who has not yet rested. However, he believes they should dedicate themselves to training while they can. The boy asked if Arya does not agree with this, but she seems distracted, as she tried to contact Mia but received no response. She said she needs to get out of there now, and in the company of Theodoro, she believes Aiden will have no problems. Disappearing amidst several lightning bolts, she assured she would return. Aiden is still surprised by what happened and is wondering where she could have gone, but since it's Arya, she should be fine. Then, Ciri contacted him, saying that several players are coming there. Aiden knows this happens frequently, so he didn't understand why she is so agitated. It was then he heard from the girl that it was one of the 5 great guilds, which left. Aiden worried. Blue flames are spreading across the field. Isabel is wondering what that is, for Zenon's level increased after he removed his mask. She never imagined he was hiding so much power. Whenever she asked about it, he never gave a proper answer. Isabel did not imagine he was of the draconian race just like her, and now Zenon has disappeared before everyone, appearing behind Mia with his sword. The cut he makes is truly devastating, ravaging the nearest mountain range, and now, fiercely he resumes exchanging blows with his former colleague. But this time, Mia's defense is not enough to contain the blade of that sword. As Zenon approaches, she attacks him with flames, but the moderator easily cuts through all of it. He is prepared to attack her with his sword. Mia changed the color of the fire, making it burn in a blue hue. Zenon is now executing another definitive cut, bringing devastation to the entire scene. After all this, only dust remained in the air. Realizing that this would be quite bothersome, Duke, who observes the fight, understood that Mia would use her enhanced form. Seeing the girl surrounded by her gauntlets, he understood that she was being pressured in the fight. And now that her power has increased, Mia seems much more confident. She created a large blue fireball above Zenon, making that attack descend upon him like a meteor. However, Zenon's agility is great, and he managed to dodge it. Observing closely, he realized that the attacks had not yet stopped. Mia tried to surprise him from the side, executing another devastating attack, breaking several stones. The shockwave from that is of colossal proportions. In light of Zenon's evasion, it seems the fight has become balanced again. Lloyd, who is also watching everything, is impressed. Realizing that even Zenon is unable to restrain Mia's full power, Isabel suggested he use his unique weapon as well, as that is the only way to stop her. Taking an offensive stance, Zenon is ready to make a quick cut. That stance left his co-workers confused as they do not know what he is planning, and standing still, he waits for Mia's approach, which she does impetuously. Completely focused, Zenon is prepared to launch an attack, making countless cuts before Mia could reach his position. That proved effective, wounding his opponent. The other moderators, who could barely keep up with that speed, are speechless. They cannot say what happened, as they only noticed that Mia had fallen to the ground, and using the authority granted by the administrator, Zenon is revoking Mia's privileges as a moderator, as it would be problematic if she lost control once again, now that she has been stripped of the power she had. He hopes she will remain docile for a while longer. Through the system, it is possible to see that her authority has been revoked. It will now be up to the administrator to decide what her punishment will be. Mia is lying on the ground, quite weakened, and before Zenon could touch her, blue lightning appeared all over that place. Not knowing what that is, Zenon is completely terrified. Mia realized that her big sister had entered the scene. Arya is there, and is definitely not happy. Now that she is in Arya's lap, Mia seems a bit relieved, and she tells the girl who was brutally beaten that she should have shown up earlier, for which she apologized, assuring her that she could rest now, completely ignoring that Zenon was approaching. Knowing what Arya did, he is filled with rage, executing a completely devastating blow, but his sword found nothing. Confused, he asked what Arya had done. As the system should have blocked most of the abilities she possesses, Arya simply communicated that she was going to take Mia out of that place, and asked Zenon to allow their exit. However, furious, he considered that a bad joke, guaranteeing that he would never allow them to leave there. Lloyd asked if this is the woman they were talking about, and Zenon confirmed the identity, assuring that his colleagues should prepare to fight. For Arya is the administrator of Genesis, and at one point in history held authority equivalent to that of the administrator. Isabella and Lloyd, upon learning this, were surprised. Now they understand the reason behind that overwhelming pressure emanating from her. Isabella noticed that her hand wouldn't stop shaking, and she can't understand why fear refuses to leave her body. Arya, for her part, assured that she only wishes to take Mia out of there, but apparently, these extras want to get beaten up. Faced with all that power, Isabel is determined to test something. She wants to know how much of her strength can work in this fight, trying to surprise Arya from behind with her swords, delivering a precise strike against her opponent. Arya didn't even bother to look back. All she did was retaliate with her fist, hitting Isabel in the stomach, who immediately regretted what she had done, as she was sent flying as if she were a projectile. Isabel barely has the strength to get up and definitely didn't have the strength to hold back what her intestines were releasing. Arya thought she had used too much power and remembered that Procyon hates to see that place being destroyed. It's a relief to know she isn't nearby. Now she turned her attention to Lloyd, who was attacking her with his armor. His blows are much more powerful, and the two move quickly, but it didn't take long for the moderator to notice the difference in power. Nothing he has done so far is capable of approaching Arya. Upset with that useless fight, the girl extended her hand in front of Lloyd, showing him the extent of her lightning, causing the energy produced by the Itaipu hydroelectric plant over 10 years to descend from the sky, completely scorched. Lloyd is trying to understand what in this world can deliver such strength, as that technique used by Arya is just an intermediate level magic, so it shouldn't be so powerful. Definitely this blue-haired woman is a monster. Now that she has dealt with these two administrators, Zenon is the last, and he approaches quickly. The moderator is prepared to execute against her the blow that defeated Mia, delivering several strikes towards Arya, but as it passed through the girl's body, his sword was completely shattered. Zenon finally realized what he was unable to injure. Arya said that not using the true potential of his equipment when fighting her is a mistake, and she didn't like being underestimated by the brat at all. Zenon said she has no right to think anything in that place. In fact, she is completely devoid of shame for having returned to them, causing his sword to gain a new blade. Zenon said he feels something every time he sees her. He is unable to hold back his own anger. After the brief outburst, he resumed attacking her, but while he struggles to strike, Arya remains with her expression unchanged. The antivirus is the one that protects the most important things. That was Arya's role. If she had done her job properly, before finishing the sentence, he fixes the sword that was broken. Aster would never have transformed, and that is what infuriates Zenon. Now he turns his blade against the former moderator, sending a huge amount of power in her direction. However, none of that is able to intimidate her. In the face of the imminent shock, several lightning bolts appeared in the sky. Then, Arya was surprised by what her eyes beheld. The administrator himself had appeared in the midst of that battle, and looking at Arya, he said it had been a while since the last time. Our girl watches the administrator with regret. A portal was opened in the middle of the forest, and Mia stepped out of it quite breathless. As soon as she touched the ground, she tried to catch her breath, and realized she couldn't stop there. She needed to keep moving. Looking at the necklace that belongs to Arya, she understood that time was against her, and that information needed to be delivered to Aiden. Within our protagonist's village, the players noticed that approach. On the horizon, a large army was approaching, and they raised the banner of the Hydra Guild. The players realized it would be better to leave that city, as they didn't want to get involved in that. Then, the guild executives observed the little town. They couldn't believe that such a large army was necessary to take such a small place. The reconnaissance squad said that other factions had not yet moved, so their job would be easier. The executive said that everyone could enjoy that place according to their wishes. A man who looked like a ninja asked something to the vice leader, for at the gate of that city, someone seemed to be approaching. They immediately asked who he was, not knowing that Theodoro was actually about to beat them all up. In a cheeky manner, they ordered the guardian to get out of there, but Theodoro immediately produced a large barrier of thorns behind him, and as sharp objects weren't enough, he made lasers shoot from each of those thorns, bringing great terror and devastation to that army of players. The guild's vice leader became desperate, not understanding what was happening. Furious, he directed his hand at Theodoro, but his attack was stopped by a barrier. After that, he was grabbed by the neck. All of this while his soldiers watched. Feeling all that power, he began to wonder if that person was ranked. Theodoro, after observing them, realized that they posed a danger to that region, and as the protector of that land, he needed to eliminate those targets. But before he could end that fool's life, someone called for Theodoro. Aiden approached calmly, for he knew that if the players were finished off, they would just respawn. So, he at least wanted to know what reason brought them. There, asking Theodoro to drop that pile of excrement, Aiden said he is the master of that region and wants to know why all those people came there aggressively. The vice leader realized that someone had already taken that place, which is a very bad start. If it weren't for the monster that was there, they could have taken the city. So, he said there was a misunderstanding. They didn't come there to fight. All they want is to set up a base in that village. And he apologized if he ended up being inconvenient, claiming that the people who are with him are workers to build that new base, guaranteeing that this wouldn't be bad for the residents, as when a large guild establishes a base, the market for the people also benefits. Then, he asked if Aiden thought that was bad. Indeed, putting it that way, it even seems positive, and the vice leader thought he managed to fool that fool, but our protagonist knows exactly that it is nothing but sophistry. Promptly denying the proposal of the idiot, the guild's vice leader was perplexed, and Aiden wanted to know if he was stupid or if he was just pretending very well, for he knew they wanted to monopolize the content and resources of that city to make a profit. You have to be very foolish to accept such a proposal, and the guild's vice leader was upset. He asked if he thinks he is a moderator or administrator to be so arrogant. Jake and Siri, hearing that, felt secondhand embarrassment. Outraged, the vice leader ordered his soldiers to destroy everything. Even though he is ranked, he will not be able to withstand the numbers. Everything should be looted and plundered, and now, the army advances against them. Siri and Jake want to help, knowing that Aiden will become exhausted if he uses his powers. However, they will be there to protect him if that happens, and our protagonist began to use his administrator privileges. He learned from his moderators that the Hydra Guild was approaching, and now Theodoro is on the front lines. Jake and Siri asked him if they could handle this situation, as they believe they are sufficient. But Aiden realized that they don't need to stop them that way, as Hydra has many enemies. So he has a much better idea. He used his ability to create an event, and a message was shared with the players in that place. The vice leader of the guild was surprised upon reading that players participating in the event should bring justice to the Hydra Guild. The reward would be 10 hours, where the experience gained would be tripled for each member of the Hydra Guild they defeat. Moreover, this event will not increase the player's karma. His moderators realized that this is a very good plan. However, Aiden became quite exhausted. All he needs to do now is wait patiently for everything to happen, as it will be very fun to watch. The vice leader of the guild is completely terrified, as now an army of players had appeared within that city, and all of them are willing to reap those rewards.